The 2025 State of the Program Address is here, and an all kinds of weather forecast special. Welcome back to the State of the Program. Welcome back to the All Kinds of Weather Forecast. I am your host, Neil Schulman, joined with an all-star lineup as usual for the State of the Program Address. Adrian Perez from Gator Diamond Pod, now the co-host of the All Kinds of Weather Forecast. We have our insider perspective in Allie Peak, formerly Allie Wilbur. Gator orange and blue runs through her veins. We've got Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered. The outsider perspective. We wanted the person that does not have orange and blue coursing through their veins on this show for this diverse panel of Florida Gator thoughts and analysis. Y'all, are we ready to talk some 2025 Gator football?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it indeed. So before we get started, got to shout out our sponsor real quick. The All Kinds of Weather Forecast is proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it is savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, contact them at 866-998-5879 or visit their website, 401kgeneration.com. Y'all, it's August. It is the second half of August about to be. We're literally halfway through the month of August. So we got Gator football on the horizon. With that said, we open up the State of the Program Address each time the same way with one word. We all go around and we fill in the blank here and finish the sentence. And we'll start with Adrian and we'll go with Allie and then Chris. We'll go alphabetical order here. The state of the Florida Gators football program is what?
All right, I hope I don't take any one of you all's answers here, but for me, it's crossroads, okay? The state of the program is at a crossroads, and I'll tell you why real quick. About 3 years ago, Billy did an interview on the Gator Nation Football Podcast. Those guys do a great job. And on that podcast, he said that offensive game planning and offensive play calling is what he loves most about being a football coach. Mm-hmm. So he ain't giving none of that up. I don't think ever. So when you look at this team, my question is, when is it going to get better than what it is this year? With the depth, the returning snaps, the returning veteran players, and of course, his hand-picked guy at quarterback to be his man. When would it get any better for Billy than this year? I don't think it does. So depending on how they do this year will depend, I think, the future of Billy Napier with Florida. Crossroads.
Allie, for you, the state of the Gators program is what?
I think hopeful. I agree with a lot of what Adrian said. I think this is the best roster Napier has had, which it should be. If you've been building a program for 4 years, these are all your guys. This should be the best roster that you have, right? This is what you've been working for. But I think this team is so talented that if they don't achieve at least 9 or 10 wins, you are going to have to look at coaching as to why it didn't play out, barring some major injuries or something along those lines. So, I am so hopeful because the talent is there. But I also agree that it is a crossroads if we don't have the outcome that this roster should on paper deliver.
Chris Phillips, to you, the state of the state of the Florida Gators program is what?
So, I thought of this while eating dinner tonight, and this was just for whatever reason the word I came up with. The state of the Gators program is optimistic-ish. From the perspective that I see, optimistic-ish. I think there is a lot of optimism, as there should be, the way that you closed out the season last year. And, funny enough, side note, admittedly, I'm surprised to be sitting here talking about Billy Napier's Gators because, Neil, I was with you there in person at the Miami game. I watched the A&M game. We thought he was as done would get, and that team rallied around him, and we gave him a lot of credit when we were talking about Florida in the season for those guys believe in him. They bought in everything he was saying. Obviously, DJ Lagway coming in and becoming the man helped. So I think there's a lot of optimism, and I agree with y'all. I think this is the best roster he's had. That goes without saying. Depth on both lines of scrimmage is a big reason I have optimism for him. The running game, obviously, DJ Lagway is sort of the cherry on top, but I think there's still I won't call it pessimism, but I think there's some hesitancy to really buy in all the way. Those first 2 years still did happen. So this is kind of the year, and I like the crossroads term as well, that we kind of figure out. It's like, okay, was that last 5 or 6 games lightning in a bottle, or did we actually turn a corner? So I think optimistic-ish was the adjective that I landed on.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with something similar to both of y'all. I will say I'm going to go right out of the playbook for the CBS intro to the Florida-Auburn basketball Final Four game. They played the song Unwritten leading into that game. That is the state of the Gator football program. It is unwritten right now. I know it's a time of year where people make predictions. I think as a society, it is okay for us to concede that we don't know. I genuinely have no idea what this Gators record is going to look like. I think I know what the team is going to look like. I think I know the kind of ball we're going to see played. I don't know what the record looks like, which honestly, to Adrian's point, does make me think this is a crossroads year for the program. Go look at the schedule. With those 4 games that Florida plays after the 2 preseason games, I think that there's a possibility that Florida is 2-4. I think there is a possibility that Florida is the number 1 team in the country. I think those are both possibilities for the Florida Gators. I think it's equally likely that Florida is going to be a title contending team as they just completely fall to pieces. Middle ground could also happen. Florida could split them in some way, go 2-2, 3-1, 1-3, where it could lead to a good season, but not a great one, where we leave points on the field, and thus where we have a Jim McElwain or Ron Zook type of record. Team will be better. It'll be a better football team. The record won't reflect it. So the state of the program right now for me is unwritten. Having said that, we are entering a very critical year for Florida. I think a lot of Gator fans would agree that heading into year 4, Florida is right where we wanted the program to be entering year 3. Clear progress shown from 2 seasons ago to last season. You got hot at the end of the last year to create real reason for excitement heading into the year. We have our QB. We have a veteran offensive line. We're starting to figure out NIL a little bit. We just outbid Oklahoma for Davion Gross. That was nice. We haven't done a lot of that in the last couple of years. And we're genuinely hopeful as opposed to crossing our fingers. So we're a year behind schedule, but the end result can still be every bit as beautiful as we ever dreamed it could be for Gator football. It could also be even uglier than we thought rock bottom could ever look like, as Chris and I were watching that Miami game together from Section 3 in the swamp, and Texas A&M was just pounding our faces into our own turf. I don't know. I say unwritten. That said, we're talking about scenarios. We're talking about possibilities. Billy Napier, we thought was cooked last year at various points last year. Against Miami, we thought he was done. Against Texas A&M, we thought he was done. We thought he was done for when Tennessee beat Florida, when Florida really beat Florida on Rocky Top that night. How safe is Billy Napier heading into his 4th season? And just in general right now, how safe is Billy Napier, period? We'll start with Allie on this one.
0 to 100. Let's see. I think he's probably sitting at about 60 right now. If 100 is Spurrier, I think he's relatively safe for the moment. I think as long as progress is shown, I don't think that this administration is apt to make a change unless they're forced to. And I think part of that is that might mean looking higher up in the athletic department. Obviously, the basketball national championship helped Strickland out there some, but I don't know that I think you get to hire another football coach if you're Strickland, if this really doesn't work out. So I don't think they're itching to get rid of him by any means. I think you have to show progress. And I'm sure we'll talk about what that looks like later on, but there's got to be some progress.
All right. What say you, Chris?
From my vantage point, I would go 65. So I'm kind of right there with Allie. I think not only the way you finished, but finishing it with DJ Lagway at quarterback, I think that helps any coach's seat when you have kind of a clear vision of what the future looks like. He's got his guy. Of course, again, he needs to win. I mean, I think the reason it's not any higher is because I do think that if they were to revert back to a 6-6 season, or God forbid, we'd be talking about him on the other side of the Mendoza line, if you will. If 50's right in the middle, it'll very quickly flip to 40 or 35, or maybe he's terminated. So it's still kind of fragile there for him, but I'll go 65. I mean, I think obviously the way they finished bought a lot of goodwill. The way he rallied that team in the last few weeks bought a lot of goodwill, and the fact that he did it with his prized possession at quarterback, DJ Lagway, who he has back, obviously, I think that bought a lot of goodwill as well. So I'll go 65 with obviously tons of competitive pressure to keep it going this year.
All right. Adrian?
Wow. I'm going to sound like the big optimist here, man. I got him like around that 75, 80. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the only way Billy Napier does not come back next year is if they just completely bottom out. 4-8 kind of record. And I just cannot possibly see that happening with this roster. And I'll tell you why, though. We don't have a president yet. Okay, so we don't have a president. And the basketball team winning a national championship kind of created a domino effect of safety for everybody. I think it created a safety net for Scott Strickland. All right. And I was with Allie. I thought there was no way Strickland could ever hire another football coach. But if it comes to that, I think that natty that Todd Golden got him, the only one of a Strickland hired coach at the University of Florida, okay, saved Strickland big time. So if something does happen with Billy that you do have to make a move, like a complete bottom out, unbelievably, I think Scott Strickland still makes it. And we don't have a president. That's another, like I said, that's a big thing also. But I just don't see the bottom out 4-8 record, not with this roster that he's accumulated. And Billy, the recruiter, Billy, the talent evaluator, Billy, the program developer, I think is aces, guys. It's Billy, the offensive coordinator, Billy, the play caller, that I think is where we all have that little hesitancy to not be all in on this, man. I don't want to get my heart broken, guys. I don't want to get my heart broken this year. So, like what Chris said earlier, man, that's the little hesitancy I think that Gator Nation still has. But as far as Billy's job, man, I think he's 80%, dude. 80% good. That's how I see it.
So I am going to be the lowest ranking here, but not by as much as I would have thought. So I'm going to put him right at a 60. I think Allie said 65.
I said 60.
Oh, you said 60 also? Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'll put myself right
You go
there.
55.
First of all, Scott Strickland is his whole separate nightmare. There's definitely a moral revulsion to him remaining after the Cam Neubauer fiasco with the women's basketball program. And then lightning striking twice, Tony Amato being a second hire of Scott Strickland's to wind up needing to be fired for abusing the athletes. But that's a whole separate issue. Billy Napier himself, I think, saved his job with a fairly strong degree of permanence to it, I want to say. Meaning if Florida loses to LSU and then loses to Miami, that's not going to put him right back on the hot seat, but it's going to put him on the warm seat. It's going to make things a little bit less comfortable for him than he would have liked it to be. Not fire him territory right there, from the people who matter. The fans will be calling for it, but that won't get him fired. But I do think that'll increase the temperature a little bit, because there is a scenario where, like I said at the start of the show, it's possible that Florida goes 2-4, and this could spiral out of control very, very quickly. At LSU, at Miami, you could easily lose them both because they're both on the road. Then Texas, preseason #1 team. Then at Texas A&M. 3 of those 4 teams didn't just beat you, they embarrassed you last year. They blew you out last year. 3 of those 4 teams had leads of 25 points or more at various points in the second half of the games last year. And the other one you had to upset. You were the unranked team pulling off the surprising result over the ranked team. You were not expected to beat them. Also, that was the first time you beat them since Joe Burrow took them on a magic carpet ride in 2019. And 3 of those 4 are on the road. So it's not inconceivable that Florida starts 2-4. And then, yes, a cupcake game against Mississippi State. Florida should win that. And then Georgia. So it could kind of come off the rails a little bit. And at that point, the number absolutely does drop. This is also where I remember what Adrian was saying. There is no university president. There is no pressure on Scott Strickland because he doesn't have to answer to anybody right now. So I wonder if that does change things. But there is a not insane scenario where things do fall off the rails very fast. There's also a scenario where Florida is the #1 team in the country at the midway point of the season, like I said earlier, too. So that can swing the number very, very drastically within the span of a couple of weeks. But to start the season, I will say he is at about a 60. He is not safe by any means, but he is closer to being a long-term Gator coach than he is to being fired at this current point in time. So, with that said, what are the expectations for the Florida Gators? They're going to have the most talented roster they've had under Billy Napier. I think we all agree on that. I don't think it's particularly close. I think that the schedule takes a bite out of what we would ordinarily say this roster is capable of record-wise. I think if you gave this team the FSU schedule or the Miami schedule in the ACC, you're looking at 11-1, 12-0 easily. That's not the reality, because that's not the schedule Florida plays, because they're not in the ACC. So, record-wise, what is our expectation for Florida this year? Chris, we'll let you start.
So I can't speak on what Gators fans want as well as you can or any of you other guys can. But from what I pick up, I mean, I think the expectation and the goal is for Florida to get to the playoff. I mean, I'll tell you this. I think the realistic expectation should be Florida needs to be in the playoff conversation come when the calendar turns to November 1st. Now, granted, on November 1st, you play Georgia. But if you go into that Georgia game, and I think all hopes of the playoff are gone, you can already kind of chalk it up as it's probably a disappointing season, right? Like, I don't see a scenario in which certainly less than 8 wins. If you're getting back down to 7 or 6 wins, I don't think you can chalk it up as a success. I think if you get to 8, if it's the right 8, I still think you can chart it up as progress. I think 9 or more, you're counting that as a successful season. Like, you were in the playoff hunt. If the roster's as good as you say it is, or as you feel it is, and with the quarterback you have, like, you should be in the conversation. I don't think you have to make it, but you'd like to, obviously, but you should at least be in the convo going into the back half of the season. So, again, talking with y'all, talking with other Gators fans, I mean, I think the minimum expectation, and I think a fair expectation, again, be in the college football playoff conversation. And maybe this is the year where 9-3 actually does get you in. I've been saying that. Maybe it does get you in, but 10-2, you want to get there. It guarantees you. But yeah, be in that conversation come the Georgia game. I think if you can at minimum do that, and obviously don't let it fall apart and fall off the rails. But to Neil, what you've been saying, after last year, man, I kind of trust Billy to where, like, unless injuries hit, this team's not going to quit. Like, I don't see that happening. So I don't think it's going to fall off the rails, because the only way that would happen, they just have to mail it in. And, I mean, they had every reason to mail it in last year, and they didn't do it. So barring injuries, this should be a team. I think the expectation should be get to 9 or more, and I think 8-4 can still be acceptable and deemed progress if it's the right 8. For example, one of those 8 wins is Texas or Georgia. So, Yeah, I think at minimum 8, but I think the expectation should be competing for the playoff.
That's actually a good way of looking at it too, even more so than just the record. I'll frame it this way for Allie and for Adrian. Give me a number, and then is part of the expectation that Florida has to make the playoff or that Florida has to be in the running for it? Is the latter categorization good enough? Allie, you can go.
Okay, so I don't love giving a hard and fast number. If I have to, I think it's 9. But I think, this might be the year 9 makes the playoffs. This might be the year 9 doesn't make the playoffs. And because there's part of that completely out of your control, I don't think if you get to 9 wins but don't make the playoffs, that's not a fireable offense when, the next year that 9 win might have gotten you to the playoffs. But this is what I think my expectations are. First and foremost, beat the teams that you are supposed to beat. So I think you automatically obviously have to beat LIU. You have to beat USF. You have to beat Mississippi State. You have to beat Kentucky. You have to beat Florida State. I think you have to beat Texas A&M. Beat all of the teams on your schedule that you are supposed to beat. You could probably throw Ole Miss in there as well. So then you're left mainly with LSU, Miami, Texas, and Georgia. I think you have to win at least one of those. And then I think you need to be competitive in the others. If Florida hangs with LSU, Texas, and Georgia, but loses, let's say they lose by 7 or less points in those games, maybe Texas, we can say 10 or less points. I think that that's considered a successful season. It's progress. Now, the only thing that I don't love about this whole scenario is that this is the best team we've seen in a long time at Florida, not just Napier's roster, probably before that, right? We don't want the ceiling to be 9 or 10 games. And it's hard to picture how this team gets even better from where they are. So then it becomes, can we ever really get over the hump? But I think for contract extension purposes, moving into next year, 9 and being competitive in every game that you do lose is probably where my expectations are.
Very interesting. You mentioned you don't like the giving the exact number standpoint because we're going to actually end the show. You remember this because you were here last year, but we end the show by going with our percent chance we think Florida has to win each game. Then we tally them all up, and then it's not a precise science, but it gives us a reasonable idea of what we think the final record could be in the ballpark of. So, Adrian, what say you? What's the expectation for 2025?
Well, I agree a lot with what was said already, especially with what Allie just said. You get to 9 wins. That's my expectation, is 9 wins. If I put a firm number on it, it should get you into the playoffs. If you don't get into the playoffs with this schedule, that's ranked the toughest schedule in college football, then you got snubbed. Because more than likely, there's going to be 10-2 teams that are getting in over you, and maybe even another 9-3 team probably. Okay, so even if you don't make the playoffs, that to me is not a deal breaker. Now, one thing that I do want to see this year is for Billy to avoid that bad loss, right? He's had like a bad loss almost every season. He lost to Arkansas that one year, then he lost to Vandy another year. Last year, he kind of gave away that Tennessee game. So avoid the bad losses, avoid the mistakes, in-game decision mistakes that seems like have perplexed him. The last couple of minutes of the second half, first couple of minutes of the first half, first couple of minutes of the second half have kind of perplexed him somewhat here in his tenure. Avoid that. Be competitive, like what Ali said, in all the other games. 9 wins doesn't have to make the playoffs in my book because that's kind of out of your control. Now, getting the team prepared, especially in the beginning of the season, which helps this year that we don't have that, tough opener. We have the 2, somewhat manageable games. Obviously, one game is much more manageable than the other. But that worked for Florida, and that worked for Spurrier and Urban for like 3 decades here. okay? Having those 2 first games to, get rid of some injuries, get rid of some suspensions, and get rid of some of the kinks out before you started your real schedule, which used to be Tennessee, which will now be LSU, right? So they should be more prepared going into the meat of the schedule, which is starting in game 3, than what they have been the last couple of years. Let's face it, somewhat opening stinkers of at Utah and Miami last year. So those are my expectations. Not playoff or bust like for some people, but I want to see a better product on the field. And with this roster, I really got to see 9 wins, man. I really got to see 9 wins.
I will say, to Ali's point and to Adrian's point too, I think, and Chris' point, I think we've all said this, I don't think it can possibly be as binary as I need to see a win total. I need to see a football team from game 1 to game 12 that looks like they can compete for a national title. Not win it, but compete. That they can play with Texas. Not just when they play Texas, but when they play LIU, when they play USF. None of these nonsense 22-7 against Charlotte type of scores against teams you're supposed to obliterate. No, you hammer them for as long as you need to. And then if it's 45-0 midway through the third quarter, fine. You can cruise the rest of the way there. I need to see a football team that starts the year strong, that plays the middle of the season strong, and finishes the year strong. Year 1 under Billy Napier looked like Florida was off to the races when they beat Utah, right? Amari Burney picks off Cam Rising in the end zone. All right, lose to Kentucky, and then South Florida almost pulls an inconceivable win over you. But then you right the ship. You get to 6-4. You think, all right, we got Vandy, we got FSU. We should win one of those 2 games, get 7-5, and maybe a bowl we get to 8. No, you lose every single one. You lose your last 2. You lose to Vandy, you lose to FSU, and you lose to Oregon State in the bowl game, which kind of has negligible value nowadays. But anyway, you don't finish strong. 2023, what happens? You come out of the gates flat, lose to Utah, and then you finish the season by losing 5 straight. Last year, Florida starts the year with one of the most embarrassing losses I think I can really remember. I mean, just because if you knew how much Napier and Cristobal were compared against each other, and you knew this was a measuring stick game for both of those coaches, they've got their rosters, right? They've recruited their guys. This is a head-to-head matchup between guys that fight for the same guys in the trail all the time. They meet in person, and one just blows the other one's doors off. That was just embarrassing. And the way you lose the Texas A&M game, the way you give the Tennessee game away, you finish strong. You don't start the year strong, and that costs you. And that essentially ends your season from a compete for championship standpoint before it even begins. So I need to see a Florida team that looks like it can come out of it looks like it can compete for titles from week 1 to week 13 or 14, because there's 2 buys this year. With that said, right, there are goals, there are expectations for Florida. We all think we have the best roster that we're gonna see likely in the last 10, 15 years, maybe. I mean, I don't know how you gauge some of those like transition years when Muschamp left McElwain in a great defense, and then he had Will Greer, kind of odd, but certainly in a long time, the best roster Florida's had in a while. Definitely since COVID, probably in the last 10 years. The schedule is what makes me very, very wary of this team's potential. So with that said, Florida is also an SEC team. They're going to face tough competition because they have the SEC circle on their chests. My question for y'all is Florida's schedule really that daunting and that brutal, or are the Florida Gators just another SEC team that has to deal with the reality being an SEC team and facing 2 in-state opponents from another Power 5 conference? We'll start with Adrian on this one.
Well, if we get down to the end of the season at 9-3, and we're in a battle of politicking to get into the playoffs, it's going to be the toughest schedule in the history of college football. Okay, but there are weaknesses in this schedule when you take a look at it and you take a deeper dive. And I'll show you why right here. Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider I got this from him, okay? He was on Pot Up with Shane. Since the lines came out, Florida has had the most line movement of any team in college football because people are betting on Florida. For example, in the games that Florida is an underdog in, LSU by 7.5, it's now 5.5. Miami started at 5.5, it's now 3.5. Texas 7.5, 6.5. Georgia 9.5, it's now 7.5. In games Florida started off as a favorite in, Tennessee 2.5, it's now up to 4, and FSU 10.5, it's now up to 12.5. So as people have taken a deeper dive look into not only Florida's roster, but into some of these other teams' rosters right here, and some of the fact that Florida is going to go up against a lot of first-year quarterbacks in new systems. Me and Neil, we talked about that on one of our other podcasts, but Miami's got Beck, Texas has Arch, Georgia has Stockton, Ole Miss has Simmons, Tennessee has who knows who, FSU has Castellanos, and Kentucky has Calzada. All new quarterbacks in new systems. Mind you, some are hot shots like Arch Manning, but these are still new quarterbacks in new systems. And you have LSU, who's returning who's returning Nussmeier, but they're very portal heavy, and you got them early on in the season, which is an advantage to Florida because Florida's returning just a bunch of veteran players. So Florida might have an edge there. I'm still giving them an L because of Baton Rouge at night, which is what that game's probably going to be. But when you take a deeper dive into this schedule, honestly, it's not as daunting as it first looked. And last year was harder than this year. That's for sure.
Yeah. Even though it's the same opponents, there's definitely enough movement on the rosters. And you figured that plus the continuity, the lack of movement that Florida really has. I mean, obviously Graham Mertz is no longer here, but Lagway's QB1 anyway. You know, you lose Jack Pyburn because he wants to get more money, but you still got George Gums and Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Banks. You're good in the defensive line. It's not like we get weaker anywhere. So before I hand this over to Allie and Chris, I do want to shout out this new setup we've got. You see the schedule here. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on video platforms, you see the schedule there. So shout out to StreamYard. Finally pulled the trigger there, made it look a little bit prettier. Shout out to Dustin, our guy behind the scenes, pulling the right levers there, making them all look pretty, giving us that nice interface. So with that said, Chris, look at the pretty pictures, look at the pretty logos, and tell me what you see, man. What do you think of the schedule? And is this something that is just Florida got screwed because it's a tough schedule, or is this just, well, you're in the SEC, you got to deal with it?
I think it's a little bit of both. You are in the SEC and you just got to deal with it. But I think we all realize at this point that not all SEC schedules are created equally. You know, I think if you ask a Texas fan or an Ole Miss fan or a Mizzou fan about the scheduling, and then you ask a Florida fan or an Oklahoma fan or a Mississippi State fan, you're going to get very different answers about the schedule. So I don't think you can just say, you know, you have to take into account that it is a hard schedule, but it is what it is. Like, I thought Billy made a good point. I think earlier in the offseason, I heard him specifically at SEC Media Days make this point. I'm going to paraphrase, but he's right. You know, he's like, listen, who's on the schedule is on the schedule. And some teams are going to be, you know, better than we think. They're going to be worse than they think. Like, the schedule will work itself out. So, I mean, I think kind of like last year, we get so lost in the logos. You see that Miami U, you see the Texas Longhorn, you see the Georgia G, you see, even though, you know, after what happened last year, you see the Florida State logo. Like, you get lost in the logos, and it's like, it's probably going to work out just like last year did. We're like, hey, LSU didn't live up to expectations. Ole Miss didn't live up to expectations. Florida assisted in that, but you know what I mean? They weren't quite the teams we thought they'd be. Not everybody is going to hit their ceilings. Like, somebody's going to lose football games. Somebody's going to disappoint. Again, it's a much tougher schedule than, let's say Mizzou. They don't leave Columbia, Missouri till October the 18th, right? Like, it's not their schedule, right? Ole Miss, their schedule last year, it's just flipped again. But I do think your schedule, it's more manageable this year because of what you guys said, the way it shakes out. I think having those two non-conference games at home to kind of get into the season, kind of shake off the cobwebs if there's any. Hey, for Florida, get healthy. That'll be a pretty big deal the first 2 weeks, I think, just based on everything we've heard in fall camp and everything. So Yes, it's a tough schedule, but at the end of the day, like you guys said, you are in the SEC, and I mean, you're going to have a tough schedule for the most part. You know, like not everybody can be Texas where you get catered to. I don't know if there's any Texas fans tuned in, but that's a fun shot at those guys. Love those guys to death. But it is just the reality. You know what I mean? Like not everybody's going to get catered to like that. So, but I thought Billy, I think they're approaching it the right way, and I think it was Lagway that said that they got to play the Gators. I mean, I think that's the attitude you have to take on. That hey, everybody we play, their schedule's tougher because we're on it too. So. But yeah, I mean, it is a tough schedule, but I do think it shapes up and it sets up much better. I agree with what Adrian said than last year's did.
Chris, I bet you love the Texas people a whole lot more than you love the teal chickens in Myrtle Beach.
Yes, I do. I'd like to never think about Coastal Carolina ever again. You are correct.
Oh, that's great.
SEC got the last laugh, though. Let's not forget.
They did. They
no
did.
thanks. No thanks to Florida. I won't hold it against Sully and the boys, but you know, no thanks. No thanks. Listen, I was writing checks that Sully and the guys unfortunately couldn't cash. So it is what it is. You win some, you lose some.
When you ignore 3-0 take sign and swing anyway, you kind of different debate for a different day.
Love Brody, that was a tough look. Yep.
Yeah, Brody, man, that was rough. All right, Allie, you are the sister of a former Gator. You are the wife of a former Gator. Looking at this schedule, to Chris's point, looking at those logos, the Miami U, the Texas Longhorn, you see the Georgia Black G, even the Power T for Tennessee, and then, of course, the Tiger head. What do you make of the way that the sequences set themselves up? Like the 4-game stretch, obviously LSU, Miami, Texas A&M, and then you have a relatively easier back half of the schedule. What goes through your mind with the football history that courses through your veins when you see the way the logos are set up in the order that they are?
So first and foremost, this is going to be the first time that Billy Napier has an opener that isn't like a prime time, you know, just everybody in the country tuning in game. He had Utah twice and then Miami. I like that there's a couple of tune-up games because you better be ready when you open against a Utah or you open against a Miami. You have a little bit of wiggle room with the way that this is set up, and I like that. And Adrian had a great point. I love where we play LSU because I don't know that LSU even knows what they have at this point. I don't know that they'll know by week 3. I bet they know by week 10, which is about when we played them, I guess last year, like week 9. So I love them early because I think that's a team that will get better as the season goes on and as their chemistry with each other kind of develops. Miami, I don't mind at game 4 either. I think they're still going to be getting to know Carson Beck, but we got a little bit of a tune-up heading in. That's an interesting spot, though, because it can be difficult after that LSU game, whether you win or lose. It's going to be incredibly physical. You're either going to be coming down from an emotional high because you won on the road in Baton Rouge, and you might be a little bit full of yourself, and you're going to have to contain that to go into Coral Gables and win. Or you're going to have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, tell yourself your season isn't over, and go on in and get some revenge against a team that, Neil, you referred to them as a measuring stick. And I agree. Cristobal was hired the same time Napier was. They've recruited at about the same clip. This, what does it come down to at that point? Probably coaching, because a lot of the other things are exactly the same. So that's an interesting measuring stick. I hate Tennessee second to last game of the season. I think that is me still having PTSD from 2001. September 11th happened. Tennessee got moved from the second week of September to December 1st. Cost Florida a trip to the SEC title and probably a trip to the national title. So not a fan of Tennessee that late in the season. I also think they have some time at that point to figure out what they're doing at quarterback. They're still a talented team. So I feel like we always say year in and year out, like, thank God we got Tennessee early because they were hot towards the end. And I don't want to be saying that this year they're hot by the end. And then Florida State, obviously, always got to be the end of the year. Florida State's going to be another dumpster fire this year, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that's a game that we're going to be too concerned about regardless of where it happens on the schedule. But you were asked earlier, is this the hardest schedule in the country or is it just another SEC one? And Florida loves playing hard schedules. Our previous national championship teams would be licking their chops to go out and play the toughest schedule in the country, show everybody they can do it. It's the toughest conference in college football, and we got one of the toughest schedules within that conference. And I think you got to wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great points. I guess as the host, going last kind of sucks because all the good points are already taken before I get my chance. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, I will say you're somewhat vindicated on the December thing. We did beat them in 2020 in December on Rocky Top. I know that doesn't undo the devastation of 2001, but it's at least something. We can now say, well, the last time we went and played Tennessee in December, we beat them. Right. So 2001 is no longer the most recent. Obviously, that is a weird piece to schedule. It is just strange to see that orange and white with the T and the second last game of the year. I don't think that Florida in a non-pandemic year has played Tennessee this late in the season for about 50 years or so. I could be off on that, but
it's always my birthday weekend, which is September 17th. I literally went to that game, home or away, every single year at that time. So
it's the third Saturday in September. At least it was until they moved it. But yeah, it definitely strikes me as odd because LSU is earlier. I've never seen Florida play Miami this late in the season. It's usually week 1 or week 2. I mean, once it's week 0 in Orlando. But otherwise, I mean, 2008, 2013, that's the second game of the year. Florida plays an SEC team right before Miami. That's the first time that's happened. Of course, Florida doesn't play Miami every year anyway, but there's just a lot of teams in a lot of weird spots. I mean, Kentucky being that late, that used to be a first month of the season kind of game. Yeah. Ultimately, though, like I was saying earlier, there are two scenarios for Florida that I think are equally likely, not that either of them is super likely, but they're about equally possible, I'd say, that Florida could be 2-4 and they could be the number 1 ranked team in the country. If you go and you pull off an LSU win, you pull off an at Miami win, and then you beat Texas, and then A&M is probably the weakest of those 4 teams, even on the road. Florida's won there before too, not that long ago. In fact, they've won 2 out of 3 times they've been there since they became a semi-consistent opponent of Florida since joining the SEC. There's a chance Florida is the team to beat in college football at the midway point of the season. So I think if that's the case, we have a schedule to thank for that. We wouldn't know what this team has if they were 6-0, but they had Mississippi State and Kentucky and a dumpster fire Tennessee team in the first 4 games after their preseason game. So I think that we're going to know very, very quickly what this Florida team is made of, for better or worse. And this time around, I think that Florida is better equipped to deal with that rough stretch than they were a year ago. They had to learn as they went, kind of, and that didn't go well. You could say that the Miami and A&M games, in hindsight, might have cost Florida a CFP shot. If they win those 2 games and the rest of the season plays out the way it does, even with the Tennessee disaster, 9-3 with that schedule being objectively tougher than Alabama's, that probably gets Florida in the CFP. So goes back to what I was saying earlier, Florida's got to start out strong. They've got to play the middle strong. They've got to play the end strong. Got to be a CFP contending looking team from week 1 to week 12. And let's talk about how they're going to do that. Let's start talking ball. DJ Lagway, is he healthy? He's got talent. We know that. He's got an offensive line that's pretty experienced. We know that. The offensive line plus running back room that Florida has looks pretty good. Got to feel good about running the ball. Got to feel good about Jacoby Jackson. Got to see him running pretty angry second half of last season. So we have a lot to feel good about offensively. The question is, what are we going to see offensively? Are we going to see a pass-happy offense because DJ Lagway throws a very nice deep ball? Are we going to run the ball and clean up with Jackson? Is it a 50-50 balance? Is 55-45 split with 1 pass or 60-40 pass run? What do we think? We'll start with Allie on this.
I think we see a more run-heavy offense. I think we have 2 of the best running backs in the country and a really, really good offensive line. And I think Napier, in general, is just kind of a conservative person as well. So I think we see, I don't know, maybe 60-40 run pass, maybe slightly more skewed towards running than even that. But I think that helps preserve your quarterback's health. And I think why not ride two of the best backs in college football?
All right. Chris, what do you think is the outside guy?
Yeah, I would expect it to be a attack led by the rushing game. I was going to say run heavy. I don't want to make it sound like obviously they're not going to use the pass. But, yeah, I agree with Ali. I mean, I would lean on that offensive line. It should be one of the best in the SEC. You got a pair of preseason all-SEC guys for what it's worth, and Slaughter and Barber. So I'd lean on them. And, again, I like Jaden Ball a lot. I do think Jacoby Jackson's a guy that was a really nice piece. And Trayon Webb. I mean, it's a good running back room. I think especially early on, too. Taking some of the heat off of DJ Lagway, right? I mean, especially if he's, kind of getting back in the groove, if you will. Obviously didn't throw during the spring. I know I don't want to make too much of the injury stuff, but I think any coach worth his salt wants to establish the running game and run the football first. That's a big, misconception with some of these pass-happy offenses, what they do at Tennessee with Josh Heupel and then Lane Kiffin. Like that, they all want to run the football first. They set everything up with the run game. Football's still pretty simple. You can move the guy in front of you where you want him to go, and you do it more often than not, you're going to have a lot of success. So, yeah, I think establishing the run, working off that with play action, I mean, that's what I would do. That's what I expect Billy to do.
Adrian, what do you think?
Yeah, you have 4 returning starters on that offensive line. 2 of them would be making an NFL roster right now if they had decided to go pro last year. And this is Billy Napier as the head coach. It's going to be at least 60-40 run. But, oh my God, unless anything changed at the very end of last year, I remember Shane Matthews making a comment that Florida in the Billy Napier era had never run a true 4 or 5 wide receiver set, okay, with true 4 or 5 wide receivers on the field. I'm not talking about splitting out a running back or a tight end and having it look like those are 4 wideouts. I'm talking about 4 recruited wide receivers. Florida under Billy Napier has never run a 4 or 5 wide receiver set. You've got some hosses in that wide receiver room right now. You could put some unbelievable 4 and 5 wide receiver sets out there with a guy like DJ Lagway, that if we don't at least see some of that, I'm going to be disappointed. I don't want to open it up like the run and shoot here. It's going to be at least 60-40 run heavy. But darn, guys, give me some 4 or 5 wide receiver sets with, Dallas Wilson, Trey, transfer, from that dude who's like $1 million.
Like J. Michael Sturdivant you're talking about.
Yeah, him. And come on, man. There's some unbelievable sets out there, mismatches that you could find. So I hope we see some of that, man. Come on. To never run a 4 or 5 wide receiver set, that's just bonkers.
Well, as I was saying earlier, how the colors orange and blue course through Allie's veins, I think 12 courses through Billy Napier's veins. I think that's just his DNA. 12 personnel is just who he is. And he's not going to change.
How many sends out on special teams, too.
Yeah, right. Well, sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's 13. That's the fun. You don't know. It's always 11 plus or minus 3. But yeah, man, he loves that 12 personnel. And I will say there is a degree of personal enjoyment I get seeing like Hayden Hansen just catch the ball in the flat and rumble for 20 yards. That's fun. That's objectively enjoyable. He runs too much 12 personnel for my liking, but with, again, the offensive line that he has, Jake Slaughter, the All-American, Austin Barber, another guy who reasonably could have gone pro after last year, did not, chose to come back. And you've got good running backs. You've got Jaden Ball, Jacoby Jackson, Trayon Webb. You can make peace with that. The question becomes, and it's difficult to say this, but let's just pretend for just a second that we're playing a video game and you turn the injuries off and you don't have to worry about Lagway getting hurt. You don't have to worry about his durability. Now what's your answer? Do you think that the passing game is that potentially explosive that we could see Florida air it out in a way that they haven't done so the last 3 years? What do we think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think potentially. I mean, they're going to have to throw the football to reach. If they're going to get to the playoff, obviously, they're going to have success throwing the football. I mean, I think DJ Lagway wants to throw the football. So, but I go back to, I mean, I think they're going to want to and listen, opponent dictates some of this too, right? Like the matchups matter. But I mean, I think if you can go out there again, if you can establish the running game early, I mean, I think that's what everybody wants to do. So there's got to be balance. You want to get as close to 50-50 as possible, but I mean, I like what Ali said too. Like Billy Napier has a track record. Like I don't see him going out there and wanting to wheel and deal. And he's not the HBC, man. Like he's not going to try to tell the opponent I'm gonna score 50 today, and you got to score 51 to beat me. Like I don't think that's the way he wants to win football games. He doesn't have to, but I mean, I know that's probably in a lot of Gators fans' hearts. They want to go see that, but I don't know that Billy's wired that way. So, but again, this football team is built to run the football and run it very, very effectively. So, I mean, I think that's going to be their bread and butter. But again, will there be situations where I think they're going to need to open it up? Absolutely. Like you can't bubble screen them to death, coach. We got to take some shots. So, I think pushing it downfield, you got a quarterback in Lagway with a lot of confidence. You do have weapons. So I would expect to see him open it up a bit. But it's to me, man, it's going to start with the running game.
Sure. Definitely going to start with the running game because that is, again, in Billy Napier's DNA. Allie, your DNA, again, your brother was a guy who caught passes for the Florida Gators. You know, and you grew up and lived the Steve Spurrier era where the Gators would throw the ball for hundreds of yards. Like Chris said, that's not going to be what this team does. However, do you see a game or a specific scenario where you think that Florida does try to take the top off the defense with some deep throws, or do you just think that even the element of surprise is not in Billy Napier's game?
No, I think we're going to see some explosive plays, and I think we're going to see more deep balls than we have in the Napier era for sure. I just still think it's going to be run heavy, but the run sets up the pass, and I think you would be negligent to not take advantage of DJ Lagway's arm and his accuracy and some of that speed we have at wide receiver. I just don't think it's going to be the bread and butter, but I think we're going to get fireworks. We're not going to get necessarily fireworks on every single play, but they will look downfield for sure.
I guess the crux of what I'm getting at is if you have a situation like a Miami Hurricane team last year, and I guess this year too, but last year we really knew this going into the season, that their front was strong, their secondary sucked. Would Florida be able to take advantage of that? This year, what's the answer?
TBD, because I think that if you're looking at Napier's tendencies, one of the chief complaints I've had the last 3 years is that it hasn't seemed like the game plan has remarkably changed per opponent, not to the clip that I wish that it did. And so is that something we worked on in the off season? Is that something that, you know, maybe we stayed within what he perceived as Graham Mertz's skill set the last couple of years, but now that we have a completely different skill set at quarterback that we can be a little bit more varied per opponent? I don't know. That is a TBD to me because that's coach adapting. And we have not seen him be particularly quick to adapt yet, but my word was hopeful, so we're going to stick with that.
Yep.
Neil, I can tell you've been playing the EA game, running a lot of 5 wide, throwing bombs. So
you think
you're a little antsy? I can tell. You want him to chuck it deep.
Yeah, man. I mean, I grew up.
Please just throw it downfield. Please push it downfield.
I will say I've watched enough football to know that. I mean, it's obvious. Anyone who's watched football knows that run does set up the pass. You have to have a functional running game. And to quote Will Muschamp, I'll use the 3-letter version of this, LIG. It's a line of scrimmage lig. Run the ball because you recruited these dudes who can just bowl over their opponents and you can win games with physicality. And there's just a different type of feeling to that. But as Ali said, there's definitely the opponent you have to take into account for too. If you have a team like, again, I'll go to Miami last year because that was such a night and day difference between how good their front seven was. And we knew they were going to be with Ruben Bain getting so much ink coming into the 2024 season and their secondary being such a known weakness. And we couldn't do a damn thing to exploit that. So again, the changing the game plan for the opponent is a concern of mine. Adrian, you think that's in Billy's DNA or no?
No, not at all. And I'll answer by just saying this, okay? Heisman odds. DJ Lagway supposedly has some high Heisman odds there. The only way DJ Lagway is in contention for the Heisman or even wins a Heisman, it will be because their overall record would be like 12-0, 11-1, and signature plays from DJ Lagway. Like a handful of those plays he had last year where he, shakes off a 300-pounder, connects downfield. Okay? A whole bunch of plays like that, especially a couple to win ball games, he's in Heisman contention. Or he wins the Heisman. He will not win a Heisman based on numbers. Okay? Because Billy Napier, I don't think is going to give you the opportunity to rack up those numbers at the QB position. It's just not his nature. One of the benefits of Gator Nation is we have great podcasts out there, right? Allie has great one, a bunch of them. Gator Nation Football Podcast does film breakdown. If you look at the film breakdown there with those guys, man, you can very clearly see that he really doesn't adjust his offense to what the other team does. He wants to do what he wants to do, and that's it. And he's going to run his 12, like you say. Like Ali said, that's what he wants to do. He wants to run his 12. He wants to run the ball, and then he wants to take shots deep. Okay, and he really doesn't adjust to that. So we'll see. Hopefully he does this year. Hopefully the stories of Callaway having more of an influence are true. I don't believe it, but we'll see. We could always hope. But to answer your question, no.
By the way, this is the second year in a row that Russ Callaway has received the exact same promotion. It's very beneficial, and it has every bit as much of an impact, I think. But to answer the question that I posed to everyone else, yes, running game is going to come first. And I think another reason for that is because there's no single point of failure there. Because if Jake Slaughter, God forbid, gets hurt, well, you still have a really good offensive line elsewhere. He's the best piece, but Austin Barber's still a pretty good offensive lineman. He can still clear a hole. Damian George, I think, playing in his more natural position at guard, is a good offensive lineman. He does his job. There's more good tape in those film breakdowns you just mentioned from Gator Nation Football Podcast than there is bad. Jaden Baugh gets hurt. Okay, sucks. Wish him the best. Whatever. Jacoby Jackson, next man up. Well, you got Trent Way behind him. With the passing game, because now we have to talk about the real world where there is no such thing as turning the injuries off. One thing goes wrong with DJ Lagway, and that in the snap of a finger changes the prognosis of this team from playoff contention to maybe 4-8, 5-7, because there is a big drop off. No disrespect to Harrison Bailey or Aiden Warner. They're not DJ Lagway. They're not in the same stratosphere as DJ Lagway. So you do have to be cognizant of that. You can't just bubble wrap DJ Lagway. You got to let him play football, but you can't keep putting him in situations where there is just more and more of an injury risk. Like even the craziest thing, he could throw a ball and then on the follow through, his finger cracks into the helmet of a defensive lineman and he breaks his finger. Now he can't throw. Like it can be the most innocuous, crazy, bizarre thing that does it to him. And you have to be aware. I won't say afraid of that. You can't play scared, right? Scared money don't make money, right? But you have to have that in the back of your head. So with that said, the running game, the play calling, the scheme, just everything that goes into Billy Napier as an X's and O's coach. I've got my thoughts on this. I'm going to hold off until everyone else is gone. Do we think that Billy Napier can at least move his play calling away from what I think we all agreed the last few years has been a weakness, not even to a strength, but just to the point of neutral where it's not hurting the Gators anymore? Start with Allie.
I think that depends on how willing he is to listen to the people that he put around him and how willing they are to speak up. I think his blind spot at times is situational awareness. I don't mind the offense as a whole. I actually like it. I just think he sometimes loses the feel before the game. And if you've got someone in your ear that's like, hey, listen, stats say we should go with this. This is what you should call. And he listens to them and adapts, then I think fine. But if he, ignores the person he promoted to be in his ear and does what he wants anyway, then you could have a problem. I'm interested to see. I think that one of the hardest things as a head coach is to continue to evolve and be able to check your own ego and continue to learn. And I'm hopeful, that he is able to do that, but I need to see it.
Okay. Chris, what say you?
Yeah, you should be worried about Billy Napier's play calling. I can't even fathom a season, Neil, where I don't hear from you and you're complaining about it. So, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. At one point, you think you would learn and adapt. And at the other hand, going into year, 4, you kind of are who you are, I mean, I think he believes that his plan is an effective plan. And listen, great players make great play callers. Like, true. DJ Lagway make a lot of OCs look really smart with the stuff he does, right? That offensive line make OCs look really smart. I mean, there are master play callers out there, don't get me wrong, but if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes, you could draw up the best scheme in the world and it doesn't really matter. So, I mean, Auburn is kind of the opposite of what we're talking about, or maybe they're actually kind of similar to what we're talking about. Like, they've got a roster I believe in, but I don't trust Hugh Freeze as far as I could throw him to put him in position to win. So, I mean, listen, like when you have a track record like Billy's got and there's proof of concept from a negative standpoint, like there is reason to worry and there's reason for concern. But I think Billy Napier's self-aware enough to know that if nothing changes, nothing changes. If they don't make a change for the positive, there will be consequences at some point. Like it's not going to work out at a level they need it to work out. So, I think the worry, the concern would be justified. I mean, there's really not an answer. We just don't know. I think Allie made a good point. It's about using the people around you as resources and leaning on them. And, we'll see. It's just ringing in my ear. Neil calling me, telling me how upset he is they didn't hire an OC. So
I don't call you. I don't call you.
Call me. You didn't. Fair enough. You didn't call me. You texted me. Either way, though, he's banking on himself. He's betting on himself. I respect it, but yeah, you got to make an adjustment.
Adrian, you think he'll do it?
No. You can tell by some of my answers already to some of these questions that I have serious concerns about Billy Napier, the OC, Billy Napier, the play caller. He was only an OC at Clemson for 1 year, and Dabo made a switch.
Well, 2 years.
When he was at Louisiana, even though he was recruiting like Alabama for that conference, he was in a lot of one-score ball games, way too many for having a lot more talent than most of the other teams in his conference. And that's just because of the style of offense that he runs. Very little margin for error, kind of keeps the game close, So, I have a lot of concerns. All these questions kind of run together. And what Allie said way early is true, right? If this team doesn't meet its expectations, it's going to fall on the coaching staff and it's going to fall on Billy. And it's going to more than likely fall on the offense. Because I think, here's a prediction for this season. Here's a hot take. The defense will be ranked higher at the end of this year than the offense. That's my prediction, okay? So the success of this team is going to fall on that offense, believe it or not. It's going to fall on Billy Napier, his play calling, his offensive scheme. So we'll see. I got worries, though.
Yeah, I think that the worries are definitely justified, as Chris just said. And I think I do need to lay out that I do like a couple things about Billy Napier's offense. I don't just enjoy criticizing for the sake of criticizing the offense. I do like this little misdirection play fake to a runner who comes one way, and then you have a tight end kind of sneaking the other way, and you just dump it off to him, and he runs free for 30 yards. We saw that against Tulane. We saw it against Tennessee, even in the loss. I like that concept. I like some of the mesh routes that he runs. I like how he floods one side of the field and has Lagway make a decision based on what he sees there. I think the spacing could be a little better, but I like the concept. I don't just blanket hate Billy Napier's offense, period. I want to make that very clear. That said, the situational awareness that he has, or the lack of it, is very, very frightening. It has led to losses against rivals in Tennessee last year and FSU 2 years ago, which I think that was just one of the worst designed plays I've ever seen, not even just the call. That's one of those things that should have been smoked out, like as you're drawing it on the whiteboard. To Ali's point, having people listen to you. No. Having the design for the football to go back to the quarterback once your offensive line has completely vacated the tackle box, giving 4 defenders a free shot at your quarterback is just objectively a stupid idea. You're asking for him to get killed. So let's maybe not ever let that play see the light of day. A different type of issue, but nonetheless, a Billy Napier X's and O's issue. Maybe that gets fixed. But the situational awareness, I go back to FSU in 2022, where Florida's gashing FSU on the ground for the entire first half. You come out in the second half and you throw 6 straight passes, all 6 of them fall incomplete. It takes him 6 consecutive incomplete passes for him to go back to the run. Like, that's the kind of stuff. And then the Georgia 4th and 1 in 2023, where you have ETN lining up, I think, 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, gets the ball. You have a jet sweep on 4th and 3 inches against Tennessee. All you need to do is just have Lagway take the ball and fall forward. Instead, you're banking on a receiver making a block and or your quarterback making a correct read. You're asking for all these things to happen and be executed correctly when you could just make it as simple as fall down forward for the first down.
Correct.
He overthinks. He outthinks himself. That's what gets me worried. And we're talking the state of the program right now. Go ahead, Allie.
We should never have a third down play drawn up where if it is executed correctly, but you're tackled where you're caught, that is behind the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And that happens on almost every third down play. Can we draw it up so that if it is caught or if it is run correctly, you are at a minimum at the first down marker, as opposed to needing your players to do something incredibly athletic or make some magic happen to get that first down. I think that's concerning. But I think what makes the situational lack of awareness worse is that Napier in general plays tight games. And you can go back to Louisiana and look at their margin of victory as a head coach there. It's very similar to here, and it's not large. So when you are not winning ball games by very many points, your margin for error is incredibly small, which makes it shines a spotlight on these situational mistakes that happen. If you're up by 40 points, we don't actually care what happens in this third down that you called in a way you probably shouldn't have. But it's because we play such tight games all the time. Every decision matters, and it makes the situational awareness more frustrating. And so something's got to give. You either have to get less conservative elsewhere so that you are separating yourself from your opponent a little bit more, or you've got to get more situationally aware. Like, one of those two things has to happen.
But as we talked about, adaptation is not in Billy Napier's DNA. He didn't adapt. I mean, he's still running the same offense he got fired for running in Clemson in 2010. There's maybe a couple more wrinkles to it, but it's about 90% similar to what he ran there.
Is there a day where you have to say, do I want to be an offensive coordinator or do I want to be a head coach?
Right.
Because you might have to pick. And are you willing to die on the sword that you're a great offensive coordinator and it costs you a head coaching job? And I don't like bashing Billy Napier. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's done a ton of really great things for the program. I love how he runs the program. I don't mind the offense at all. I think that he is an incredible talent evaluator. I think he's out-recruited his record every single year. And this is like his Achilles heel. And it is frustrating to think that he is lacking the ability to look inward and say, okay, so this is where I need to make a change if I want to keep this dream. And I mean, maybe he did this offseason and he's going to come out and the offense is going to look different and we're all going to be surprised. And I'm going to be the first person that is cheering him on and excited about that. But that's not what history shows me. And that's all we have to go on right now.
So my fear is this. We're talking state of the program right now. We're talking from a 30,000-foot view, zooming way out, big picture. This is my fear, what happens. Because like you, I like Billy Napier. I think he's a good guy. I think that does matter. I think character does count. It is important. I do value that, and I do weigh that. My fear is that Billy Napier does have an objectively tremendous roster that he's assembled for this season. And I'm probably the most skeptical of the four of us on here. I genuinely believe he's amassed a very good roster at a minimum. It could be a great roster. It could be elite roster when you combine the pure talent with the experience he's got. That he's amassed this great roster. And because of all that talent and experience he's amassed, Florida is just naturally a better football team. And they get to a big game that they earn this stage because they out-roster these other teams, more talent, more experience than most of these other teams they play. So they get themselves to this game that matters that much more, and Napier makes colossal mistakes at the worst possible moment with his play calls. Maybe it's in the first round of the CFP. Maybe it's a game Florida has to win to get to the CFP. Maybe it's against Georgia. Maybe Florida finally has Georgia on the ropes in the fourth quarter, more so even than they had last year. And he does something stupid to mess it all up, and Florida loses that game. Maybe it's a 3rd and 2, up 24-20 with a minute to go. And now, of all times in the world, is when Napier tries to throw it deep, and it's incomplete, and it stops the clock and gives Georgia another free timeout, essentially. So my fear is that Florida has this 2025 season that's objectively good, but not great. And the reason it's not great is what you guys talked about. The offensive play calling is what separates them from Texas, maybe Ohio State in the playoff, or an Alabama in the playoff, or whatever. And then the team dissipates. Because we'll get Lagway back, but you lose a Tyreek Sapp after this year. You'll lose a George Gums. You'll lose a Caleb Banks. You might lose Cameron James. He's a junior. Trey Wilson could go pro. Maybe a Texas Tech or a Georgia or Texas just comes in and buys players from our roster. And then this season, 9-3, 10-2, we'll say, will justify Napier getting 3 more years to rebuild a roster and get that continuity back. At that point, Lagway's gone. Maybe Elijah Haven, who we just got crystal balled for or recruiting prediction machine for, is an ex-QB. But he needs time to learn and develop. And Florida needs 2 years of building around him just to develop that continuity and chemistry where everything falls into place. Between now and then, we're 6-6 or 5-7, maybe 7-5, because Napier, as an X's and O's coach, just isn't capable of stepping in and helping his players out with a great scheme or a great game plan the way that Dan Mullen could when the roster is not quite where it was this year. But that 1 year of 9-3 or 10-2 buys him more time and patience. And then 3 years from now, when the seat heats up all over again, you go 9-3 again or 10-2 again. You have that one good season out of every 3 or 4. And now we're stuck in a vicious cycle where every 2 or 3 years, every 3 or 4 years, I should say, you have one good one, bad seasons in between. And it's that one good year that keeps giving you hope and reason to believe that you can keep getting there. And then you blink your eyes and 15 years have passed and you have nothing to show for it. State of the program address. We're talking big picture. That's my fear.
It kind of sounds like this year's a crossroads, huh, Neil?
Kind of sounds just like that. So, yeah, I mean, Florida's got the roster. Like we said, they've got the roster. So let's talk about it a little bit more. Who on this offense, aside from the obvious of DJ Lagway, is someone that you need to see step up for the Gators this year? Adrian, what do you think?
Trey Wilson, obviously. Yeah, it's going to be Trey Wilson. He had that great first impression as a freshman, and you thought that you really had something there. And then he had the sophomore slump, a lot of it due to injury, obviously. Also, Billy kind of was using him just as a gadget player, obviously, in that first season. So you wanted to see the development with him as a wideout. You kind of saw some of that, him coming into his second year in the spring game, right? You did see that, but then he got hurt, and he pretty much missed the entire season. So going into this year, You really want to see Trey Wilson step up, be used more as a receiver, less. You could use him in those little gadget plays, obviously, just because of his athletic ability, but I really want to see him down the field, running some routes, work on his route running. It'll benefit him, obviously, for the NFL, but I think that's where he'll serve this team the best, man. When you team him up with Wilson, with a Sturdivant out there, you got something, man. A lot of speed. So I want to see that from Wilson. I want to see his game develop into a full-rounded receiver.
Chris, what say you?
Well, I was going to go Trey Wilson too, admittedly, so I'll go Jaden Ball instead. I mean, I think, we've been talking about the running game. You need your bell cow back to carry the load, man. So I'm going to go Jaden Ball. I think he can hit 1,000 yards this year. I know it's a deep running back room, but I think there's no secret he is RB1. So it's going to start with the running game for the Gators. That's the bread and butter. So I'll go with run the ball, Jaden Ball, to build off of last year.
Allie?
I'm going to go with Aiden Mizell. I feel like this is somebody we always hear about from practice. He's dealt with injuries and such, but I'm ready for him to become a consistent member, contributing member of this offense. He's got incredible speed. I think that he is very talented, but I want to see him show up every game and stay healthy.
Okay. I'm going to go on non-skill position. I'm going to go Damian George because he came to Florida and he struggled mightily. What's that?
I said he needs to show us some for sure.
Yeah, he needs to show us. And, he came to Florida from Alabama, a lot of hype around him, but he didn't produce. And at first the excuse was, well, he's not in his right position. He should be a guard. Okay, fine. We move him to guard. There's improvement. He does some good things. He's got to do them more consistently. He's going to just do more of them. I think he can be a great offensive lineman on this great offensive line for Florida. I think that someone other than Jake Slaughter and Austin Barber, who I think have gotten all the ink with this offensive line this offseason, I think there needs to be a third name that really steps up and starts getting some attention from both the people like Gator Diamond or like Gator Football, Gator Nation Football Podcast, and from the media when it comes time to start voting for all SEC. So I'm going to go Damian George. That said, who is one person that nobody is talking about right now who needs to step up for the Gators? So maybe not even a starter, maybe someone who could just provide some depth, someone on the offense that is not being talked about right now that needs to produce for the Gators. Adrian, what do you think?
Tony Livingston. You mentioned how the 12 is Billy's favorite number. Well, you know who one of those 12 is going to be. It's going to be Hansen, right? But you need that second tight end. And that's going to be where Tony Livingston, who came to the program, remember, he came as a left tackle. Remember? He was a tackle. And he wanted to play tight end, so he stayed trimmed down. He didn't get bulkied up. And he's had some moments. So blocking's not an issue with him, having the offensive line background. So having him as your second tight end to be in that 12 personnel, he's not someone who's mentioned that at all, really. It's somebody that if he steps up, does his job, makes the offense run smoothly, that's for sure.
Chris, what say you?
He might have been mentioned a little bit, but the guy that probably nobody's talking about a ton that better be ready is Harrison Bailey. I mean, really, truly. Listen, if I had to bet on does DJ Lagway play and does he take every snap under center healthy this season, I don't know if I can make that bet with you. So I think Harrison Bailey better be ready to take some snaps. Outside of that, I like what Adrian said, the tight end pick. I mean, I think any of these receivers, like a TJ Abrams, a young guy, especially if like a Dallas Wilson isn't ready to go out of the jump, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for guys to step up and emerge. But I mean, Harrison Bailey better be ready, man. That's all I'm saying. I don't think for a long term, obviously, but you might have to turn to him at some point. So
here's a fun fact before I give it over to Allie. The last time that the Florida Gators had their starting QB play the entire season and only leave games when it was a blowout, meaning not for injuries, not for struggles, 2008 the title year. 2009, Taylor Wyndham knocks out Tebow. 2010, you have a mess. 2011, you have Driscoll and Brissett. 2012, Driscoll gets hurt at the end of the year. 2013 is a mess. 2014, Treon Harris comes in for Driscoll. 2015, you have Greer getting PED pops. 2016, obviously, there's more injuries with Del Rio. 2017, there's Malik Zaire getting some reps. Luke Del Rio plays a game. 2018, Felipe Franks gets benched against Missouri. 2019, Felipe Franks starts the season, gets hurt, knocked out for the year, so you get Kyle Trask. 2020 is kind of it's a little different, but Trask did miss a little bit of time at the very, I think, like midway point of the Oklahoma game in the bowl game. He got taken out because he was struggling, kind of an asterisk there, but nonetheless. 2021, obviously, Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. 2022, Richardson sits out the bowl game. 2023, Graham Mertz makes it, I think, for most of the season, but he missed a little bit, I believe, in the Charlotte game. Maybe it was McNeese, but he got taken out not because of a blowout. And then 2024, obviously, Mertz with the ACL. So crazy.
I feel really smart for my answer then.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm backing you up with that answer.
Playing chess,
Florida has
checkers
had
here.
to use QB2 every single season since 2008. Allie, with that said?
Yeah, Harrison Bailey was going to be my pick, but since you stole him, I'm going to go with Bryce Leavitt and Najee Harris. Florida has the makings of the best offensive line we've had since Pouncey's were on it, but it's going to require some consistent play from everybody, right? We're not just worried about all Americans coming back. Everybody has got to do their job. You mentioned Damian George, and I think that there was a lot of room for improvement for him after last year. At the very beginning of the season, my head was going to explode watching him play. He did get better as the year went by, but I think Leavitt and Harris are going to play a lot of snaps, and they're both in year 3 in the program. It's time for them to step up and produce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good picks. I don't know what I was thinking. Charlotte. It was Missouri that Graham Mertz got knocked out of, and then didn't play against FSU. I was with Max Brown. I don't know why I thought it was Charlotte.
But yeah, I guess, real quick,
I guess I'm used to that cupcake week at the end of the year. I'm still getting used to that before FSU.
Real quick, Neil, is it Harrison Bailey or is it Aiden Warner?
Aiden Warner. Yeah, that's
a great question. I think on the roster right now it's Aiden Warner, but from everything I've heard, it should be Harrison Bailey.
QB2 then. QB2 is my answer.
Yeah,
whoever it is.
QB2. Yeah, that's a good answer.
You better stay hot. That's all I'm saying. Stay hot.
Better be ready. That's for sure.
I hope not. But stay hot. Yeah,
exactly. I'll be very quick. I'm gonna say Treon Webb because the running backs do tend to take the most pounding of pretty much any position group. There is a possibility of injury. You hate to think that way, but
I don't think we've made it through with all of our running backs intact for many years either.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. I had the QB one off the top of my head. I don't have that one, but it is a very shaky history. But for that reason, Treon Webb. You need, ideally, if you're going to be that pound the rock type of team and you're going to live in the 12 personnel world, you got to have 3. We know we have 2. You got to have 3. So with that said, let's move on to the defense. Spent a lot of time on the offense. Defense, I don't think there are quite as many questions because the play calling isn't the same thing as it is on offense. There's not that big of a direct impact. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. There is obviously an impact if you're going, cover 4 against a 12 personnel offense. Yeah, that's not good, but that's not an area of concern, I should say, for Florida. So let's just talk personnel on this defense. Let's talk about some of the coaches that were brought in last year. Obviously, Ron Roberts comes in. We have Coach Chaos departing for Texas A&M. We have Gerald Chapman coming in. Allie, we'll start with you on this one. What kind of impact do you think that Coach Chapman has had on this roster versus do the Florida Gators have this great defensive line room because they recruited great defensive linemen?
I think they recruited great defensive linemen. I think Chapman is kind of the spark plug that has his intensity has upped their intensity, if that makes sense. And I think we watched the 180 they made as the season went on last year. You've mentioned the Texas A&M game, and I've probably told you this story, but we sit in the former player section, which is in the north end zone, just a few rows up, and that is where the defense warmed up for Texas A&M. And Texas A&M actually warmed up their defense first, and they were electric. Coaches in their face, they're going at it with each other. It just was like I was psyched watching their warm up. And then Florida warmed up, and it was incredibly lackadaisical. Nobody got on anybody else. No coaches pointed out that this warm up was very half-assed. And Eric turned over and looked at me and was like, "We are about to get our ass kicked." And then that's exactly what happened. But fast forward as the season goes on, and we continue to sit in the same space, and you watched the intensity level just like a switch was flipped halfway through the season. And I think Ron Roberts was a large part of that. I don't know this as a fact, but my guess is that's when Ron Roberts kind of took over and Austin Armstrong maybe took a little bit of a step back. But you watched just a completely different level of aggressiveness and intensity that we just didn't have the first half of the season. I think we have the talent. What I am so interested to see is, and I think Chapman is a part of this, I want to see if that intensity level continues. Did you continue those hyper competitive practices? Are you just chomping at the bit to go out and hit someone? And if we don't open the season like we ended the season, then I have some concerns, even though I think this defense is incredibly talented.
Goes back to what I said. You got to play from week 1 to week 12 as the same championship contender caliber team. Chris, you cover all 16 SEC teams. Still crazy to think that there are 16 SEC teams. Where do you think this Florida defensive line ranks among the other 15?
It's one of the best in the conference for sure. I think at the very top, I think Texas has probably got the best front seven in the conference. I think you can start talking about Florida kind of right after that. I think there's more proven guys than, say, even like a Georgia, who's still, it's just 5-star on 5-star on 5-star in the front seven. Tennessee, I think, still got a good front seven. I think you got to put Florida right up there. That duo of Sapp and Banks is as good as it gets. When I think of the Florida defense and what I expect them to be this year is just physicality, just physical, really, really physical. Again, I think it'll start up front. Beyond them, Jamari Lyons and George Gums Jr. And I really think that they're deep too. They're deep. It's not just 2 or 3 or 4 guys. So, I'd put them right there to the top of the conference. I think Texas, again, right now with what they've got with Colin Simmons and, I like what they've got a lot in the front seven, but I think Florida's a top at minimum 3 or 4 defensive line in the conference.
I guess I should have asked you this question when we were talking about the offense, but real quick, line of scrimmage wins the game, obviously. So I'll ask you the exact same question for the offensive line. Where do the Gators' offensive line rank among the SEC?
Yeah, I think it should be, again, kind of top of the league. I think that, you look at what like Texas A&M's bringing back with 4 or 5 guys back, and I don't even know how many thousands of snaps, but it's a lot. I think they could be one of college football's best. They could be a Joe Moore Award type of winning offensive line. But, yeah, in the SEC, I think Florida, again, when you look at what they've got returning, the caliber of talent, I think it was Adrian that mentioned guys that could have went to the league, could be on NFL rosters are back. Yeah, it's that is, I'll tell you this. That's a question that Texas has, that LSU has, that Georgia has, that Florida ain't got. All those teams I just mentioned, they don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball this year. Even Texas, it's 4 new starters. So a lot of talent, obviously. But, yeah, I think you got to put Florida near the top just based off the knowns and who they've got returning.
Adrian, I will ask you the question a little bit differently. Florida, obviously, they lose. I say lose. They'll be fine, but they lose Jack Pyburn because LSU just buys him. Cam Jackson is a loss that I think actually does hurt because he did a lot of stuff for Florida that just doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Are the Florida? We know the top heavy guys. We know Caleb Banks. We know Tyreek Sapp. We know George Gums, if for no other reason than the fact that FSU is still probably trying to clean up the hole that he dug in the middle of their turf with that flag plant. Do the Gators have the depth behind those guys that you think this is a defensive line that can just shuttle guys in and out and not suffer that much of a drop-off in production? Is the depth there?
The depth would have been better, obviously, if DeAndre Robinson hadn't transferred out. They got the kid from Baylor, Bet, to replace him. You know, you've heard some good things about him, that he's, you know, getting there and stuff, but I don't think he would have been as good as DeAndre Robinson would have been, obviously, because DeAndre would have been his second, third year in the system. So, but let's face it, guys. I mean, interior depth is something that is such a luxury. Okay, you'll be lucky sometimes to have front line. If you could get yourself 2, 3, consider yourself fortunate. I think Florida has that. I like Burrow, Micah Burrow.
Yeah.
I like him in there, and you know, rotating in there with Lyons, rotating in there with Banks. You know, get Bet in there. Who am I missing? Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, Cameron James.
I think he's more of an edge, no?
Yeah,
one of the edges.
He is. He kind of plays the yeah.
You know, could it be better? Of course. Is it serviceable? I think it is. Can you withstand injuries? No, but I don't think anyone can. So it's kind of like quarterback. We all talking about if DJ Lagway gets hurt. Well, that's pretty much every team in college football. If they lose their QB1, for the most part, they're toast as far as their ultimate goals. And the interior defensive line is kind of like the same. You know, you really need health in there, man. It's tough to build quality depth. If you could get three, if you can find 4, consider yourself fortunate. But I think they have enough. Though. Can't get injured.
Yeah, I had his name on the tip of my tongue. I meant Brian Taylor Jr. Cameron James is an edge, but Brian Taylor Jr. does provide.
Yeah, Brian Taylor Jr. Yeah. Heard some good things about the Mbachu kid, but he's a freshman, you know, so it's tough to be counting on a freshman. But every now and then, I mean, I heard you hear he's a big, strong guy, man. So that's half the battle in there, you know. If he learns the playbook and stuff like that, maybe he could give you a few snaps, give you a little bit of breather. So they got bodies. They have bodies in there, but we'll see.
So Florida obviously is going to lean on that front because you need to have a great defensive line if you're going to win games in the SEC. It's a line of scrimmage league, as we all know. How about the back 7 or 6? The linebackers and the defensive backs can't go by position. This show is already 90 minutes long. So for the sake of everyone's sanity, we'll go just linebackers and then just the defensive backfield. But Allie, we'll start with you here. Who's got to step up? I think Miles Graham is kind of a good answer. So we'll take that one away. Who else has to step up in the back 2 levels of the defense?
Pup Howard. I think we saw some inspired play at moments from him. I want to see it be more consistent, and I want him to stay healthy. But I think that is important. I think Florida's linebacker room is right up there with running backs for me in terms of consistent, reliable, and I have no concerns with. I feel differently about the DBs. I don't know if you want me to address linebacker and DB together right here, or we'll circle back or whatever, but I think for me, linebacker, I'm incredibly secure, but I want to see some of these guys take another step, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we can do linebacker and DB one at a time for time's sake, because the show's already, again, approaching 2 hours. So go ahead. Defensive backs, who's got to step up for you?
I want to see Devin Moore stay healthy and play well. I think Johnson has to as well. For me, Florida's DBs are thin. And that's health is a concern for me. Florida loses DBs every single year. And I mean, it's probably not just us, but that's just where my PTSD lies, is our secondary being incredibly thin. And I think that once you get past probably, I don't know, maybe the top 6, it just gets incredibly young. There's talent there, but there's not a lot of experience. And so that is going to be, now hopefully Florida's defensive line being good and doing their jobs is going to make it easier on this DB room and maybe give these guys the ability to cut their teeth a little bit. But I am a little bit concerned that we're thin at DB.
Yeah, and going back to your linebacker point first, I hate to even remember this. I wish I could just forget about it. The Mississippi State game was a little frightening as Florida was up 28-7. It gets to 28-21. Pup Howard was the one who slammed the door shut in that game. Like, no, Blake Shapen, you're not making that pitch for a touchdown. No, it's not happening. He's the one who came up and made that play. And that was when things were going badly for Florida. Week before that, they get trounced by Texas A&M. 2 weeks, of course, after Miami blows their doors off. So Pup Howard has a history of making plays for Florida, not only just making plays, but doing so to shift momentum in a positive way for Florida, because things were trending the wrong way in that game as well as in the month of September 2024. And it was Pup Howard who stepped up and made things change for the better, at least in that game. Chris, same question for you. I'll ask it a little bit differently. What do you need to see from the Florida linebackers and DBs to complement what I think we all agree is going to be a very good front?
Well, I mean, I think the back end of the defense, you always want to, not have any blown assignments. I mean, I think that, big plays, the name of the game in college football. We know that. I mean, you hear coaches say it all the time, limit the explosives. So I think that's going to be the responsibility of the back end of the defense. You feel really good about what you got up front. You're going to be able to stop the run, get after the quarterback. But you got to hold up your end of the bargain on the back end, especially if you get into a situation against some of these better offensive lines. For example, you play Texas A&M. If Georgia lives up to what they can be on the offensive front, Texas, same thing, right? It's going to be an all-out war in the trenches. You're going to have to, hold coverage for 3 or 4 or 5 seconds or what have you. So you just limit the explosives. I mean, that's the big thing. Don't get beat with the big play. I liked what Ali said. I'm looking for a big year from Pup Howard. Been watching Pup Howard for a while. I think he's a dude who's capable of being an all-conference guy. So I want to see Pup Howard take the next step. And then I think anytime you've got an all-SEC caliber corner like a Devin Moore, the other guy's under a lot of pressure. So a guy like Dijon Johnson at that opposite corner spot, stepping up and holding your own, because you're probably going to be the guy they're going to go after, especially if Moore shows early on that, he's worthy of that all-SEC, some of that all-SEC hype that I think he's gotten from some of the outsiders out there. But limit the explosives, man. I think that's the name of the game. Keep everything in front of you. I think if you can do that, I think that's something that Billy Napier, Ron Roberts, that entire staff could probably live with.
I think that this is the first time that 2 of the first 3 of y'all have gone and not taken at least one of the major pieces of what I was going to say, which I like. I can say something different.
I have it.
But Adrian still has to go. Let's go ahead, Adrian.
I have it. Well, first, real quick, Robinson, Pup Howard, Aaron Childs, Miles Graham, 4 guys that are going to play in the NFL. Book it. That linebacking room is just elite, and they're going to show it this year, man. 4 deep, easy with NFLers. The guy you're talking about is Jordan Castell. He's the one who needs to step up and, as a true junior, show that all the snaps he has taken, which is a lot, because he started as a true freshman, had in my opinion, a pretty big dip his sophomore year, and he needs to step up as a junior and make all those snaps be worthwhile and be the leader of that back end, be more of a ball hawk, take better angles, be more of a downhill tackler, just shore up all aspects of his game. And this defense needs it, because honestly, behind him, you really don't have anything unless you move around some pieces. And unless you move Gates back there. They've been saying that Gates has been taking some reps with the safeties. So if you want to get your best 5 out there, and Jordan Castell is not one of them, then you might see Gates back there. But I think they're going to definitely play Jordan Castell back there, and he needs to step up, like you said, and put all those snaps to use that he's taken.
Yeah, there went my talking point, or at least half of it. I was gonna say two people, and that was one of them. Yeah, I'm good with linebacker. I think also the fact that Florida really only plays two true linebackers. I mean, they kind of play three. Yeah. The Jack is sort of a linebacker, but they play two traditional linebacker spots. Miles Graham, Pup Howard. I think they're two of the better linebackers in the SEC. You've got Aaron Childs. You've got Jaden Robinson behind them. There is some depth. I like the potential of a Miles Johnson and a Ty Jackson, true freshman, coming in there. I think Florida's going to be fine. It's the secondary, and it's two people that I'm looking at. One of them is the one you mentioned, Jordan Castell. He had a great start to his career. First month of his career as a true freshman in 2023 was pretty good. Did a lot of good things on that tape, kind of trending the wrong way since then. So had some good moments, definitely did some things since that first month of his career to justify some reason to believe in him, but definitely some questions. The other one, I can't believe his name has not come up yet, is
Monty.
There you go. One of the crazy stories in college football. He's a Miami Hurricane commit because they outbid Florida. Well, then he goes to Colorado. Then he's in the transfer portal. Then he comes to Florida. But there are problems. There are questions, I should say. Is he a culture fit? Is he going to work out? Well, he's a preferred walk-on, but he gets a nice NIL deal to kind of cover that up. Fast forward through all that, if we're going to talk about guys who are not being given the credit that I think they deserve, dark horses, this is it. This is a guy who has a lot of talent. We know that. We saw the teams that offered him out of high school. That's not a mistake. So we know he can do it. Is this the year where he finally puts all that together? And it's hard to say that a cornerback is going to make or break a team. We know the front four really for Florida, defensive line and linebackers are going to do their jobs. It's can the secondary step up and just, as Chris said, not blow their assignments. Cormani is the kind of guy that can make spectacular plays happen. We saw the pick six against Kentucky last year. We see his speed. He's got a crazy vertical. He can make great things happen if everyone else just does their assignments, which is also an F. But he's the guy I'm looking at for 2025 for the defense. So, special teams. Allie, you're the resident expert on this. This is another part of your Gator DNA. Aside from the low-hanging fruit of can we count to 11 properly and can we not trigger procedural penalties every time we line up for a field goal, what are you looking for from Florida special teams this year?
I want to see what the attitude is towards special teams from the top down. I was with some of our specialists a few months ago. Eric worked at camp with the Townsend brothers, and a lot of Florida specialists were there. And we had some conversations that were concerning to me. One of the things was that, I talked about well, who is supposed to count you guys? And the answer I got was oh man, that was totally on us. We were supposed to count. It was hard to see everybody because there's so many people down on the sidelines and we couldn't find them. And I stopped and I was like, wait a minute, Tommy, who counted how many specialists or who counted special teams players for you? And he said what coach it was. I said, Johnny, who was it for you? I knew the answer for Eric. It was Frank, who was an assistant strength coach at the time. So the fact that is something put on the players when Coach Napier has 3 people to hold his cup of coffee is concerning to me because it speaks to the larger picture that I don't know that they value special teams in the same way that some of our previous coaches do. Now, the caveat to that is I don't know that there's any team in college football right now that values special teams the way we used to value it maybe 10 years ago. But that was concerning to me. The other thing was that it was mentioned that nobody wants to play special teams. They have to beg guys to play special teams. And I also hate that because we're from the era where the way you got on the field was by playing special teams. And if you needed a break, you weren't taking it during special teams. You were going to sit a snap on offense or defense, wherever you were going to play. You weren't taking your break on special teams. So I want to believe that maybe special teams hasn't been a massive emphasis the last couple of years because it was just such a massive project to get your offense and your defense where you wanted it to be. But now that it is, you can focus on special teams. That is my hopeful outlook on that. but I need to see consistency. I don't want it to just not be a liability. I would love for it to be a weapon. I would love for a generation of players to know the same quote that we do, which is, if you block a punt, you got a 90% chance of winning a game. I mean, that is, and when you play close games, special teams matter even more. You have the opportunity to change the outcome of ball games if you put an emphasis on this third aspect of the game.
Yeah, the one that comes third in the hierarchy of offense, defense, and special teams. And you mentioned, the urban years, pretty much everyone aside from Tim Tebow and Percy Harvin and Brandon Spikes and Joe Hayden, like pretty much everyone beyond or below that level of stardom played special teams at some point in their careers.
Joe Hayden played it at the beginning of his.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
You're way on the field. Percy Harvin returned kicks for a little bit too. Like you got on the field by playing special teams, and it mattered. And I wanted special teams to matter again. Make special teams great again.
Make special teams matter again.
So I think that's where I'm confident in Tommy Doman. I'm confident in Smack. I'm confident in Rocco Underwood. I think our individual specialists are incredibly talented, and we should be good there. But there's 11 guys, count it, 11 guys that play special teams. So we need some other people to step up.
Not roughly 11, not about 11.
Somebody sent me a shirt that said, we almost always sometimes have 11 men on the field. And that is like, please just send the right number of men on the field every single time.
And stop pushing back Trace Mack's field goals by 5 yards because you can't line up correctly. Chris, I'll go to you. This is why we want the outside perspective too.
Neil, wasn't it this time last year when the stories were coming out, or the storylines, the headlines were being made about the mat that the Gators were standing on? It was in fall camp, I think, of last year.
It was in summer ball.
Did they have a special teams blunder in the Miami game that you and I were at? I don't think they did, right?
There was a kickoff where they only sent 10 guys out there.
I was going to say
I am correct.
There was only like 3 games of the entire
year. The irony that I was just going to say, okay, so I forgot about that one, but that's just so on brand. And then I was in Jacksonville for Florida, Georgia, and they had it. What was that? It was like a botch. It was a botched snap, right?
Yep,
wasn't it a botched snap?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just couldn't go to a Florida game without seeing it. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay because there was only 3 where you didn't see it last year, so the odds were in your favor.
75% chance.
As someone who will probably see Florida more than once again, wink, wink. Maybe this will be the year I go to a Florida game and there isn't some special teams fiasco. So
you're coming to Texas with me, right? That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to just spoil it, I guess. Yeah. The plan is to go to. The plan is to go to Texas and then go back to the cocktail party. So
yeah, well, so the point I'm getting at is when Florida plays better opponents, it tends to happen more. I don't know if that's because they're getting psyched out or because the moment is just too big for them, or maybe they're all thinking about something else. I don't know. But Chris, as the outsider here, as the non-Florida fan here, Florida fans en masse delivered this virtual verbal beating to Chris Couch for every single thing that went wrong last year. You can't blame him this year because he's not there anymore. Joe Houston's the name that everyone knows. It's more complicated than one guy overseeing the whole unit, but Chris Couch was the punching bag. He was the target. He's gone now. Do you think that he deserved as much heat as he got, or do you think that was just a symptom of Florida not having a full-time special teams coach? And, well, I'll follow up after you answer that.
To not have a full-time special teams coach is crazy. Yeah. That's a pretty wild. And what was it again? It was Florida had 2 O-line coaches but no special teams coach.
Yep.
It's amazing Billy's still here. I mean, really, he has danced with the devil. He is truly like danced with the devil. Good on him. Good for him. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, the good news is for Florida, like from just the outside perspective, like I haven't thought about Florida special teams as much this preseason. Like I got to be honest, I didn't think about that when making my game by game predictions. I didn't stop and go like, which game will Florida special teams screw up? So I think that's good. I mean, most of the attention's directed on Lagway or the defense or the line of scrimmage. So or the health of the team. But yeah, I mean, dude, the special teams coordinator should be held, or whoever's manning it, whoever's in charge. Yeah, they should be held accountable the same way Billy's held accountable for the whole team. I mean, yeah. So I don't think like it's a secret, like at a place, for example, like South Carolina. It may be corny, it may be whatever. Like they take a lot of pride in the special teams. Yeah. They like I just feel like, I know I'm oversimplifying because there's scheme and there's I feel like special teams is just a give a damn. Like you just have to give a damn. Take a little bit of pride in it. Like Allie was saying, like the stars, like at the places where they're good at it, like the stars of tomorrow are getting their first licks in out there. Like guys want to play special teams to be on the field. So it's not rocket science, and you do have a good kicker. And I think Dolman will be a good punter. But like y'all were saying, it's all the execution and the little things. And the way you do anything is how you do everything. So it's like it bleeds into everything else. A leak becomes a flood type of deal. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see if they give a damn, I guess. I don't know. I mean, again, thankfully, like I said, from the outside perspective, I have not thought about it nearly as much. But I appreciate you, Neil, bringing it back up because it does give me a good laugh.
I guess it's like the offensive line too, where the less
you should make a shirt, Neil, for your site with just like the 11 spots. Just
I should do that.
Numbered. They're just 11 spots with a number on them.
Should it be?
That's all it is. It's a well understood Florida thing.
But should that be for Florida lining up on kickoffs, punts, field goals, punt block, punt return?
Is it like a game of Twister on your shirt? Maybe put a 12th one for fun.
You just put an abacus with 11.
You think those will sell? I could probably make some bank off that.
I mean, I'd wear one. Sure.
Yeah, wear it to the Texas game. Make a lot of friends that way. Adrian, the special teams, as Allie was saying, used to be a point of pride for Florida. Used to be, I think the stat was even crazier than Allie said. I think it was like 92.4% chance to win a game when you blocked kicker or punt. That's insane to me. And yet it wasn't that long ago that Florida was doing that, where there was pride in having Brandon James returning kicks, Andre DeBose returning kicks. He took several back to the house. You blocked kicks almost every other game, it felt like, with Urban Meyer. Do you think that that's something that Florida at least has the talent for? Because we talk about guys getting their first licks in on special teams. Do you think Florida has the young, hungry guys who are going to be able to step up and make those kinds of plays on special teams, blocking a kick or punt, or taking one back 50 or 60 yards to the house on a punt?
Well, it all falls on the coaches using them, right? Because remember, back then, you also had Chris Rainey coming off the edge in field goals to block kicks, okay? And Jeff Demps also did it a couple times. Yeah, what a concept, right?
Jarvis Moss plays on every special teams unit. Think about that.
Exactly. Yeah, get your fastest, quickest dudes on the team, put them on the edges, and just go 5 yards as fast as you can and block that kick. What a concept. Urban Meyer, a genius. Wow. Who would have thought? So you got to do that as a coach. One thing that I'm looking for is, with all the speed we have in the wide receiver room, okay, all the playmakers, I understand the most important thing about fielding punts is the first word, fielding it. But find me a game breaker amongst that group who could make some plays. DK did a great job last year in fielding kicks and stuff like that, but he really wasn't a threat like a Kadarius Toney, who was the last guy that we had who was a threat back there. So find me a Tank Hawkins. Find me somebody who could, Muez Tunkara, Nashawn Montgomery, one of those speedster guys who could field the ball but also make plays back there in the punt return. That's what I'm looking for. And for as bad as the special teams have been, for as funky and as weird that they've been under Billy Napier's era, the one thing they have been able to do, which Billy should give the guy a big kiss, is snap the ball. That's Rocco Underwood, man. One of the best long snappers in the game. Billy Napier should thank that guy. Because if you've had snaps over the punter's head to go along with everything else that's been going on with the special teams, Man, I don't think Billy could have survived that, but who knows?
Do you know Rocco Underwood learned to snap because Tommy and Johnny Townsend are his cousins, and he was the little cousin, and so they used to make him go out there and snap to him so they could practice.
Nice.
If he wanted to play.
That's the kind of inside heat we want on these shows.
There you
love
go.
that.
Rocco Underwood, man. Unsung hero. Because his snaps are always on the money, dude.
It sucks that the one that wasn't kind of really killed Florida, because he was I know you can't take that one off. You can't take that one off his record. It did happen and it did hurt. But aside from that one best half against Georgia, he was rock solid all year long.
He'll be all SEC this year at the end of the season. There's a possibility he's an All-American at the end of the season. He's that talented. But the bottom line is your special teams approach comes from the top down. So our identity will be whatever our head coach decides our identity will be, whether that's an afterthought or a priority.
And it seems like you're pretty clear on which one you think it'll be. And I happen to agree with you.
Neil, Allie just made a point about Underwood being all SEC. If Billy and the boys can't get fired up that the entire preseason all SEC team specialists were Georgia guys, then I don't know what to tell you. The entire preseason all SEC, they were all Georgia. Like, Georgia apparently is going to have the greatest special teams in the history of the conference. So, if I'm a Florida Gator, I'm like, we are not allowing Georgia to sweep the special teams awards. We're not going to do it. Somebody needs to win an award, damn it. So, again, get fired up on special teams, man.
I'd rather see Florida take it out on Georgia on the field in that one game than in the ballots.
Maybe they win it because of special teams. Wouldn't that be ironic?
I was going to say they could.
Maybe wouldn't that be ironic?
That's what I'm getting at. I'd rather Florida, save their best on special teams for that one game. And if it is going to be an afterthought, like I think it just is going to be under Billy Napier, I'd rather it be an afterthought in the 11 other games. That's the one that has to show up. All right, y'all. Whip out your phones. It is time to do a little bit of math and time to do a little bit of predicting. It's very, very difficult for us to do score predictions for games that are 3-4 months away, even with the FSU and Tennessee games. So what we're going to do instead, those of you who remember us doing this from our last year State of the Program address, we're going to give our percent chances that we think Florida has to win each game. We're going to take them out of 100, so decimal points. I mean, not that anything is 100%, but if you do think Florida has a 100% chance to win a game, you just put 1. Anything less than that is decimal, 9.6 for 96%, etc. So, Long Island, we can just zoom through this one. I think we'll do it this way. Anybody here think there's any less than a 99.9% chance that Florida wins that game?
110% chance. Maybe.
Okay.
I think, wasn't it you I saw on Twitter talking about how bad they are?
Yeah,
some guy was like worried, and you're like, you don't understand how awful LIU.
Being from New Jersey and 20 miles away from Long Island's campus, I know the kind of athlete they recruit. I know they haven't gotten appreciably better from last year when I actually did see them play. It's like the McNeese team that we beat 49-7 a couple years ago would throttle them. It's not going to be a contest. Next.
Does Lagway play? Does Lagway play game 1?
That's the better question. I think he will play unless he is literally unable to walk. I don't think he'll play long, but I think he will play a little bit. That's actually good. We'll open that up. Chris, Allie, what do you think?
I will be worried if he didn't play. Like, I listen, I get it. Like, it's LIU. You're going to kill him no matter what. But I was asked actually by somebody, it was either this week or last week. Like, it was this week. It was on Monday. They asked me, are you concerned about the Lagway chatter? And I've seen plenty of videos from practice, and like, he looks fine. But like, I essentially just told him, I'm not worried about it. But if we get to game week and I'm still hearing stuff like he's day to day and I'm going to start to worry. Like, the guy didn't throw all – he needs reps. The guy needs reps. So if he's 100%, let him go against LIU and tear them apart. Like, let him go 3 quarters. Get the reps.
No.
He needs reps, man. Like, until it's like 49-0. Like, let him go. Like,
he will be lucky to play 3 series.
Yeah. Well,
so he's like that limited.
LIU, Billy.
I mean, the spread for that game will be north of 40.
I get that.
It's not north.
You don't think he'll play a half? He won't play a half the game?
If it's 42-0 midway through the second quarter, I think he's done.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, 42. Fair enough. I just think he needs reps. Like I'd want to get him reps, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, whatever. I
want to see that line.
They could run it every play, and it probably be 42-0 midway through the second quarter. So I mean, who knows?
I really want to see that betting line. I am very, very.
There probably won't be one. Probably
Might be off,
They always have one like right before the game.
Oh yeah.
I bet it's north of 50. Allie, you hearing anything?
If I'm Napier, I play him one series, regardless whether he's fully healthy or he's not. I play him one series. He makes it through one game alive. I move on to the next thing. Because the other thing is, who also needs reps? Harrison Bailey or whoever is going to be back there, because there is a genuine risk that they're going to come in if history is going to repeat itself in any way. And I think let Lagway get some reps against USF. Like he will play the majority of that game. At the very least, he'll play deep into the third quarter, in my opinion. Let him cut his teeth there. It's a little bit higher caliber of opponent. You're in game 2 now. You've survived game 1. You're getting ready for LSU. I don't know. I would be overly cautious. I would play him very little. You can't not play him, because I think then fans lose their damn minds and it creates a whole nother set of problems for you. But I would play him very sparingly.
I think unless he's in serious pain, you play him. Like he can't throw or he can't walk.
And if he is in serious pain, have they been lying to us this entire offseason where they've said it's fine? He's fine. Everybody's making a big deal out of nothing. This is precautionary. He's totally fine. And if there's no way you can look at me all summer long, say he's totally fine, this is just totally precautionary, and then not play him at all game 1.
I guess you could say, well, he had a setback. But right. I'm with you on that. All right. So just with the caveat that nothing in life is ever 100% guaranteed, we're going to round up and say it is 99.999999% that Florida wins this game. We'll say 100. We're all at 1. South Florida, I'll take it down to just 99%. Does anyone think that Florida has less than a 99% chance to beat South Florida?
I'll put 96.
Okay. All right.
Different.
All right.
By the way, watch South Florida against Boise State week 1. I believe it's the Thursday night game, the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. It'll be good to watch that game. See, I like Golich. I've always respected him.
Yeah, I do too.
And I don't think – South Florida is definitely not an LIU, that's for sure. They gave Bama all they wanted last year.
Gave Miami all they wanted, too, for 2.5 quarters.
I'll say 96. I'm not going to disrespect them with a 99. 96.
I'll say exactly 99%. I think if Florida and Miami play, or Florida and South Florida played 100 times, I think South Florida wins 1. I think that's probably fair. Florida's infinitely more talented, and the experience they have on top of that just gives them such an edge. Yeah, one out of 100 for South Florida in terms of their chances sounds about right. Chris, what do you think?
I'll go 98% just to be different from you. It is just crazy how much difference a year makes, though. We were like hyping up that UCF game as like they could really lose it. Now I feel so much differently now about I mean 98, 99%. I'll go 98% to be different from you, but yeah, I mean Florida's going to win this football game. There's just no question. So
now it gets fun at Miami. What do we say, guys?
LSU.
You're missing.
Or LSU, I mean. Sorry, LSU. Now it gets fun. LSU, what do we think?
45% chance of winning.
Chris?
As far as the Gators winning?
Florida's percent chance to win the game.
40. I put it at 40.
Chris?
I'm going to go 30. I just think Death Valley at night, man, it's a night game. It's going to be kind of the same respect you give the Swamp at night, dude. That place is a zoo. It's just going to be different.
I love that stadium at night.
Yeah, it's already a confirmed night game. Like it's a 7:30 Eastern kick. Yeah, especially too if LSU loses to Clemson. I mean, it wasn't no matter what happens, but a lot of people out there are picking them to lose that season opener. Boy, LSU's going to come out hair on fire in that one. So, Gators got a chance. Don't get me wrong, but I'll go 30%, a little bit lower.
I think LSU is going to come out hair on fire regardless because Florida beat them last year for the first time since before Burrow took them on that magic carpet ride, 2019. And that's not right to them. They don't remember what losing to Florida feels like, so they're going to want revenge. Then you got the Jack Pyburn story. You got the Nussmeier versus Lagway comparisons. Brian Kelly versus Billy Napier hired at the same time. Again, another measuring stick. Obviously, they're very different types of coaches, but they're always measured against each other, just like Cristobal, because they're hired at the same time. I will go 26%. No, a little higher. I'll go 28%. It's not a sure loss. Florida will show up and play well. They usually do for night games in Death Valley. 2 years ago, when Florida was 5-7, they had the lead in the second half. The strength and conditioning just wasn't there, and LSU made them wilt in the fourth quarter. But Florida had the lead in that game. And even 2019, when Florida was facing one of the greatest teams ever, again, Florida had a second-half lead in that game. So historically, Florida is not really the kind that just wilts under those lights in Death Valley. And, they won't back down, right, as they say. And I think this year the talent and experience gives them a puncher's chance. But I think LSU is just too powerful up front. Moving forward, now we have Miami. I was still thinking South Florida. I was thinking geography. Miami is South Florida, whatever. So my wires got crossed there. Now the Gators and the Canes. What do we say for this one?
Percent chance there's more Gators than there are Miami fans there?
99.
That's 99.
I say Florida has a 60% chance to win this game.
And we're all keeping our numbers straight, right? We're all tracking them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to do the math for me, but sure, I'm keeping a list.
Yeah, sure.
Just kidding.
Chris, Adrian, what do you think?
I'm gonna go 72%. Miami's quarterback is Carson Beck. Florida ate him up. I think they'll do the same thing again. I'm not sold on Carson Beck at Miami, and I think the Gators are going to get some revenge. So give me Florida 72%.
Huh.
72.
Adrian?
Yeah. The good thing here is that we're going to have a really good look at LSU with Clemson, and we're going to have a really good look at Miami with Notre Dame, right? So we're going to have a real good look at what they have. I'm not a believer in Miami. I got my buddies. I'm staying at my buddy's house that I grew up with down in Miami for that game. They're convinced down there that Carson Beck will be as good as Cam Ward. Talk about delusional, right? But I'm not buying that. Jojo Trader, I believe, he's missed most of fall practice. Beck missed all of spring. You're getting them early. I got it at 75% chance to win that game.
See, this is one that worries me.
Got to win it too, by the way. In my opinion, it's the most important game of the entire season. Is that game right there? Because I have them losing to LSU. If you lose to UM, the luster of that Texas game is gone. You go 2-2 to start the season. That crowd for Texas will be nowhere near what it could be if you beat Miami. So that game against Miami, to me, is the most important game of the whole year.
You got to win the state of Florida, right? I don't feel like as a fan of the Gators, you can accept not winning the state of Florida. I feel like that's pretty important down there.
And it's the last time we'll play them for the foreseeable future, too. They're not on the schedule after this. And this is, for all we know, goodbye to the rivalry. I mean, they'll play again at some point down the road, but it's going to be a minute, especially with what Adrian and I talked about off air, too, about the CFP committee not really valuing non-conference schedule strength. I don't see these non-conference games more than Florida Miami, even like the Texas Ohio State type of game, LSU Clemson, Alabama FSU. Like, I think those games are going away, but that's going to mean Florida Miami is going to be a casualty of it. So this one worries me because I think Florida will go to LSU, and I think they will play well in Death Valley. This one, to Allie's point almost an incredible 2 hours ago, this is where the aggregate kind of worries me a bit. You just played that emotional game against LSU. Whether you win it or you lose it, you're coming off of some kind of emotional peak or trough, whatever. It's an emotional sine wave that you're coming and trying to weather and regain your focus and play another game. And I think this is one where Napier just outcoaches himself and he outthinks himself. I don't think he'll do that against LSU for some reason. I just have a bad feeling that Miami, with the second week in a row that you're going up against really, really tough dudes in those trenches, I think that gets to Florida, and that combined with Napier making a pretty boneheaded play call at some point will cost Florida. So I'll say 36%. I think Miami wins the game. It's not a guarantee, but I just don't have a good feeling about that. So Texas, what do we think?
Neil, I have a question. If I give, technically in this exercise, if I said anything less than 50%, that would insinuate I was picking Florida to lose, and anything more than 50% would insinuate I'm picking to win. Does that have to be the case?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay, because I think there's some of the games, there are games in college football where you can say a team has a 40% chance to win, but you're picking an upset. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
I'm going to give Florida. I'm going to say a 28% chance to win the game. I can't. I will admit I picked this as a loss. Like, I think this is going to set up as like this is. There's a reason I'm coming. I hope it's a night game. I need to see the Swamp at its peak. I just don't know if I can get there all the way with I just think the rosters are just Texas. I think they're the best team in college football. I think they're the most talented team. I mean, they spent $40 million on the roster, God forbid. So by this point, if not earlier, I think Arch Manning is really starting to click. And that, as good as Florida's front is and as much as they'll be able to run the football, buddy, against that Texas front seven, they will have to throw it. They will have to. Not saying they can't, obviously, but they will have to throw it. So would it shock me if Florida pulled the upset? No. Would it surprise me? I'd be a little surprised. But again, I've never been in the Swamp at its peak, so maybe it'll surprise me. I'll go 28%.
Okay.
Please, Swamp, deliver. That's all I want. Just please deliver. That's all.
You got to ask the team. The Swamp did its part against Miami. The team didn't.
Yeah, the Swamp was loud for about 5 minutes. And
I was going to say
nothing.
it was loud for the first quarter.
Hey, give me a night game where it's not 110 degrees at kick either.
Well, hey, they were loud. They were loud when Montreal Johnson busted that run. That was a loud.
Yeah,
moment.
that was.
Intermittently loud is not the Swamp at its peak, though.
No.
I think Florida has a 25% chance of winning this game, but I do think Florida pulls an upset somewhere on this schedule. I don't know that it's necessarily Texas. If they figure out how to beat LSU and how to beat Miami, they win this game because of the stadium. What it's going to sound like if by some chance Florida is 4-0 going into October, which I don't think is likely. I think they're probably 3-1 going into October. But if that happens, that stadium is going to explode for that game, and it makes the chances of an upset a lot higher. I think on paper, Texas beats Florida, but I'm going to say 25% because I'm saying there's a chance.
Yeah, and that is why that Miami game for me is the most important game, right? Because I don't think there's no difference. The atmosphere for that Texas game, Chris, that you'll experience, there'll be no difference if they're 4-0 or 3-1. There will be a big difference if they're 2-2 with a loss to Miami 2 years in a row. You're not going to experience that Swamp, okay? And that Texas game went probably from a 30%, which is what I'm predicting with a Miami win, to what will be probably a 5% if you lose to Miami.
Yeah,
so I'm going, they're going to beat Miami, and Texas will be at 30%, and you're going to experience a crazy Swamp, my man.
Fascinating about this game, too, y'all. Adrian, you were talking about the looks you're going to get at Miami and LSU. I mean, you're going to get a heck of a look at Texas week 1 against Ohio State. And then they play San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston bye. So they will have a few weeks to get ready. But that week one, I mean, the pressure that Texas will be on if they lose week one because they still got to play Georgia. Most of us out there think Kirby's kind of got Sark's number. But yeah, it'll be – if they're 4-0, I mean, it'll be just a madhouse.
Even 3-1. Even 3-1. You're still going to get it. You're still going to get it.
You guys, all three of you are on here because of your football prowess. You're all brilliant people. I'm surprised no one pointed to what's before Texas. A bye.
The bye.
You get a bye before Texas.
Well, but they both get a bye, so it's like it kind of evens out. I feel like from that standpoint.
But Florida really needs it. Texas is going to have de facto buys with the games you just mentioned.
Yeah,
Florida needs time, whether it's to just get physically healthy because someone banged a leg or something against Miami or LSU, or to just mentally get right. They're going to have that week to relax. I think that.
I don't love a bye after a loss, though. So. But I love a bye. I said I don't love a bye after a loss.
No, you don't. I don't either. But I'd still rather have a bye after a loss than have to get ready to play a big game like Texas right after it too. I will say 46%. Negative Neil is being the most positive one here. Still give Texas the better chance to win, but I think that bye plus the fact that it's in the swamp, plus even if Florida does lose to both LSU and Miami, I think that turns this game into a last stand kind of a deal. Kind of like how LSU was last year in the swamp. Like you kind of feel as though, yes, Napier was given he's going to return status from Scott Strickland, but you just kind of felt like if Florida loses this game, he's a dead man walking. He'll be back for next year, and then it's his farewell tour. That was Napier's last stand, and he won it. So this game would be an even bigger last stand because Texas – is better from a roster standpoint. They will be ranked higher, and it's earlier in the season where there's more football to be played later on in the year. You can still salvage things if you pull this monumental upset. And if you do pull this upset, you will have one of the most impressive wins any team can possibly have. Texas, one of the best teams in college football. I guess the winner of Texas, Ohio State, and maybe the winner of Texas, Georgia will have a comparable bragging right. But as far as reasonable predictions for a big time win go, this is probably as big as any. So I think Florida's going to know that and play with that. I'll still say 46%. Texas has a more likely, a better chance to win, I should say, than Florida does. So now the Gators play the other team from Texas. They're on the road this time at A&M. It's the fourth time in the last 13 years that Florida will go to the fourth time in the last 14 years that Florida will go to Aggie land. Meanwhile, Georgia's never been ever. But story for another day. What do we think?
I think Florida beats Texas A&M. I say 70% chance. I've been to College Station twice. I'm not overly impressed by the stadium itself. I think their fans are very cult-like, and I think Florida's the better team.
Chris?
I'm going to go 50% because I don't know about this game. I'm very 50-50. I don't know how good A&M is going to be. Like I said, I think they've got one of the best offensive lines, if not the best one in the conference. What is Marcel Reed? How big of a jump will he make? They probably have the best running back room in the conference with Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens and some of those other guys. And then, Mike Elko defensively, I trust him to field a good product. But then A&M going to A&M, Aggie going to Aggie. And then I will say, this game, we have a kickoff for it. Yeah, okay. So if it's a night game at Kyle, I feel a little bit better about A&M. Like this one, I really could pick either way. Admittedly, I did pick A&M in my predictions just because it's at Kyle Field and probably going to be at night. The one thing I will say, that place does get really loud. They are very culty. You are not wrong, Allie. They're very culty, but they wear it as a badge of honor. So I literally flip a coin. This one, this to me, I'll tell you guys, this to me is one of the most underrated games in the SEC this season. Like it is, this one I think is going to get pretty weird. So hopefully not one of those games or one of those special teams blunders or whatever stupid thing happens for Florida. But yeah, I'm going to go 50% because this one's just hard to get a read on.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't get no fumbles there driving it to kick a game-winning field goal either, like the last time we were there. But I got it at 70. I got it at 70 for some reason. I'm just not sold on Marcel Reed. They kind of put it on us last year at home, but that was a different team. And if it's anywhere near that team and not the team that then went into the bye and showed up for the remainder of the season, then they'll probably put it on us again, along with all the other good teams on this schedule. But I don't think that that's the case. So I got it at 70% Florida.
I was going to say, did A&M put it on Florida or did Florida put it on themselves? I mean, you guys got a weird pick six off a deflection.
Florida didn't show up that day.
Yeah,
at all.
I'm with you on that one, Allie. Yeah, I think that this is a weird one too, where I think A&M actually has an underrated roster. I think, like Chris said, Elko is going to have good defenses. I think the running back room is very good, and I think they're good in the trenches. Also got to give them credit that they do have still some former Gators that are going to be ready for this one, both coaches and players. So they're going to show up. I think Florida is just better. I think the combination of the Gators' offensive line with the running game and their defensive front is going to just be too much for A&M in the end. Close game, fun game, could go either way, but I'm leaning Florida. Fun fact, I mean, Adrian, you talk about how Florida's fumbling on their way to a winning field goal against A&M. That's the only time Florida's ever lost there. They won the other two. So the history is trending Florida, on top of the fact that I think the current rosters lean Florida too. I'll go 63% for Florida. By no means a guarantee, but I think Florida wins. Mississippi State. This one should not be a game, but I will let you guys go first.
Respect to the SEC, I'll put it at 90.
Okay.
85 out of respect to the league.
Yeah. Chris?
I'm going to go 90%. I do think Mississippi State is going to win a league game this year. Just for fun, I'll spoil it on here. I've actually got Mississippi State beating Tennessee in a big upset early in the year. They're going to get somebody. I think Blake Shapen is much better than people realize. He got hurt pretty early last year. They've got Devon Booth and Fluff Bothwell. They might have the all-name team at the running back position.
What a great
great names, but they're both also really good players, especially Booth. Defense, can they just stop a nosebleed is probably the key to their season. They could not stop anybody last year. But they'll get somebody, but it ain't going to be Florida. I got Gators winning this one, 90%. By the way, Neil, total side note, I just realized Florida doesn't play a noon game this year. Congratulations.
That we know of. Miami still could be.
Oh, okay. Well,
but
leave it to the Canes to mess that up. But yeah, I'm just looking at the schedule. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Every game. That's impressive.
Yeah, no, it is.
We need less noon games in the Florida sun. That's for sure.
We need less noon games, period. It just ruins the tailgating totally. I mean, you can leave the Cup games. You can leave.
Somebody else can have a noon game, so there's a TV on at the tailgate. I just don't need it to be us.
Yeah, but I mean, those should be the joke game. That should be like the Georgia Marshall type of game. But yeah, I respect to the league, like you guys said. I'll go 87%. 80, all right, 87%. Florida's just so much better in every possible way. I do think Jeff Lebby by himself is a better X's and O's brain than Billy Napier is, but that's just not going to matter. The rosters are just so widely unfairly balanced towards Florida that's not going to make a difference. So Florida 87% there. Georgia. What do we think, Chris?
I am going to go 38%, but that doesn't matter because I'm picking Florida to beat Georgia. So I think Georgia. So Georgia has historically long win streaks against Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, and Georgia Tech coming in the season. I do think one of those will be snapped this year. And I got nothing. I mean, I got nothing but respect for Kirby Smart, that program. I mean, I love Athens. I don't want to talk too positively about Georgia on this show, but got none but love for them. But guys, I was at that game last year, and I think if DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt, I think Florida wins that one. I really do. And I know they don't have Carson Beck on their sideline anymore under center, but Florida's got a year further polished DJ Lagway. If DJ Lagway is healthy, I think Florida wins the game. So I'm going to bank on that he is, and I think Florida in the trenches is finally at a place where I think they can go toe-to-toe with Georgia. Don't get me wrong, it'll be an upset for sure, but I'm going to say Florida in the last game in Jacksonville for a couple years, I think they leave Jacksonville with a dub for old time's sake. So I'm going 38%, but I think it's an upset that Florida pulls.
Fair enough. Allie?
I think I'm saying 45%. I also think Florida wins this game. I think that we are going to see Georgia take a step back from what we've seen the last couple of years. That doesn't mean they're not going to be really, really good. They're probably going to win 10 games for sure. I just think there is this tiny opening to take advantage where Georgia might not be quite as Georgia as they've been in recent years. And I think Kirby is, in my opinion, the best active coach in college football. So it won't be long. The window is small. And if Florida can take advantage and just kind of write the universe for us, this is the year for that to happen.
I think we're approaching the point, or Adrian, go ahead. You didn't go yet.
All right. Guys, I'm gonna show my age here, right? Because I'm a 92 to 95 Gator, same years as Danny Warfel right here. And I saw Florida beat up on Georgia in Athens. I saw Florida beat up on Georgia in the Swamp. And I saw them just take it to them all over Jacksonville. I saw it in the rain and the snow. I saw them, Georgia, come in with Eric Zier thinking they had us. And I saw Spur put up 50 on them almost every game. That's how it is in reverse now, right? So until I could see it reversed back, I can't pick Florida to beat Georgia. So I got it at 25%. It's one of only two rosters this year, them in Texas, that I see as better rosters than Florida. I even got Florida as a better roster than LSU because LSU has so many portal guys that you just don't know, you know? But Georgia, like I said, until I see it, I can't pick it. So Georgia, Florida, 25% chance to win that.
I think we're getting close to the point, too, where you have to wonder how much more Kirby has left, which I think the answer is a good bit. But it's at the point now where the answer is not forever. Like
I think 5 years max, Neil. Talking to them, I think most Georgia folks agree. If he's still the coach in 5 years, that'll be somewhat of a surprise.
Yeah.
So I think Kirby's biggest thing, he wants to prove he can win a chance. This is what I've been told. He wants to prove he can win a national title in the new era of college football. I think as soon as he does that, the clock has officially began to tick, whether it's immediate, whether it's the next year. But I don't think Kirby's he's not a guy that's going to be coaching until he's 65, 70 years old. It's not.
No.
And is it to retire, Chris, or NFL? It's to retire?
I think it'd be to retire.
No,
I think he's a Georgia guy through and through, one stop. That's just what I've been told. I mean, who knows? I don't know him like that, but those guys I've talked to that are in Athens that cover Georgia, they think he just doesn't. He's got kids. He doesn't want to coach into his 70s like a Spurrier or a Saban did. So, yeah, I think he's 5 years tops.
No, but so where I'm going with that is I think that Kirby has one more salvo in him. To Allie's point, though, he's down right now. Hit him while he's down. Take advantage of that and beat him. And I'm going to say that Florida has a 51% chance. This game, to me, it's a coin flip. Kirby is the better X's and O's coach, different side of the ball, but he will outcoach Billy Napier. I just think that for once, between DJ Lagway and that experienced offensive line, Florida is, I don't want to say better than Georgia, but they're at a point of neutral. It is a fair fight now in the trenches. I don't think that Jake Slaughter and Austin Barber and Damian George are going to be intimidated. I think they're going to play like it. And I think that Florida has the best player on the field. That's why I go 51% Florida. DJ Lagway is just better than anyone else on the field, and he has the weapons that can help him make plays. Obviously, as we said, Florida is a run the ball, pound the rock type of team, but Lagway is going to have to make a play here or there, and I think if he's healthy, he will do that, and he will win the game for Florida. So 51% chance for Florida. Then, and this is the one thing where I say about the schedule too, where, yeah, it's hard, but Florida gets the two worst teams in the SEC too. Mississippi State and Kentucky. Maybe Auburn is up there. Two of the three worst teams in the SEC are on the Gators schedule. This is the other one after Mississippi State. What do we think? Florida at Kentucky. Allie, we'll start with you.
What did I write down here? Florida at Kentucky. I think Florida has an 85% chance of winning this game, which is exactly what I said for Mississippi State. It's the fact that in the SEC, anything can happen. Florida's much more talented than Kentucky. We did get the Kentucky monkey off our back last year, which was the weirdest losing streak like in my fandom history for sure. But I think Florida handles this game easily, barring some kind of wild mistake. It's probably closer than it should be, though, because that's a Billy Napier homer. But they win.
Yeah.
Chris?
Listen,
or Adrian?
out of respect to the SEC, right? Again, out of respect to the SEC, and nobody goes into Kroger Field, man. No one goes into Kroger and drops half 100 on them, man. But I got the Gators at 90%. I mean, that's a bad team this year, Chris, right? That's a bad football team this year.
So my highest percentage chances of Florida winning in the games we've done, LIU at 100, USF at 98. Kentucky is an SEC team, but I'm not a Kroger guy, Adrian. I'm a Publix guy. So I'm going 97. I'm going 97%. I think Kentucky stinks. Like they stink.
Yeah.
I dropped my picks for them today. I had them going 3-9 and 0-8 in conference, folks. I don't think they win a game in the. I think they're bad. They're bad. So the only reason it's not 100% is because, for like you guys were saying, for whatever reason, like Billy has struggled with Kentucky, which is just the most out there random.
Yes.
Yeah, like Florida as a whole had just a run struggling with Kentucky for whatever reason. I mean, heck, I remember the last game they went there when it was Ray Davis ran for like 3,000 yards.
But we won 31 straight before this weird.
Right. But that is such a thing of the past. This is Mark Stoops' farewell tour. Kentucky sucks. 97%. This should be Florida this should be a fun day for them. Just do whatever you want. Should be a blowout.
So do you want Kentucky's social team on you like you had the coastal team on you?
You know what, Neil? I won't listen. I will feel worse for you than I will for me if we have a reason for Kentucky's social team to be on me. Okay.
Oh my God.
Because there's going to be a coaching change. If we're losing to Kentucky, it's probably time to call it and go a different direction. That's all I'm saying.
I feel like I've heard that multiple years, but
yeah, right. That's the problem with this. Yeah, I mean, Florida is just so much better roster-wise. Again, I mean, Zach Calzada is what, his fourth SEC school, or is his third? Auburn, Texas A&M. Is there another?
Yeah.
So
A&M, Auburn, and then Kentucky. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not scared of them. I know they beat us 3 straight before last year, but this is just such an unfair fight. I think, and to the point of Napier struggling against Napier struggling against not good teams. Even when Florida is clearly outclassing a team like a Central Florida last year or a Tennessee 2 years ago, he lets off the gas pedal in the second half. So the final score just looks a lot closer than it ever should have been. Or even FSU last year, like Florida should have won that game by 50, given how bad FSU was, but they won by 20 instead. I think it's one of those games where Florida wins by a very small margin, but it's never really in doubt, like a 27-14 or a 31-13 or something like that, where it's not a complete embarrassment, but Florida clearly has control of it from the get-go. So I'll just say straight up 90% for Florida. Out of respect to the league, of course. At Ole Miss. This is a game that Allie said you think Florida has a better roster than them. You may get some pushback from some Ole Miss fans on this, but what do you think? Percent chance. What do you think?
I have Florida at a 70% chance of winning this. And I guess, when I say I think we have a better roster, maybe we don't really know because Ole Miss, buys their new roster every single year. So we're not 100% sure what they're working with yet. They don't know what they're working with. I can tell you, I think Austin Simmons is soft based on actual interactions with him. So if that's what I'm gauging it off of, I have no confidence in them that way either. I do think Lane Kiffin is a pretty good coach. I think he always loses at least one he shouldn't every year, but I also think he always snags some he shouldn't as well. But I think this is going to be fun for all. I plan on going to the Grove and enjoying the atmosphere and walking away with a win.
Yeah. Real quick, the Oxford is known for the Grove, but it's not really known as a tough place to play in,
right,
as far as the stadium goes, right? So this is out of respect to Lane Kiffin. I got a lot of respect for him as a play caller, as an offensive coordinator, but he's never done very good in like revenge matches either. So Florida beat him last year when they had all their horses playing for a college football playoff berth. Their entire defense is revamped, man. It's like they lost 10 out of their top 11 tacklers, something like that. So I got it at an 80% chance Florida wins this game, even at Ole Miss. I got it at 80.
I was today years old when I found out Austin Simmons was committed to Florida at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
One-time commitment.
I didn't know that. Well, I heard Allie say that he was soft, and I was like, let me go see if let me go search Twitter real quick, and then I see Allie tweeting about his commitment 2 years ago.
He sent me a DM on Instagram and told me, I'm not scared of competition, and then blocked me after.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder if she's blocked on social media.
I'm blocked on Instagram but not until after he sent me a message letting me know he's not scared of competition.
Interesting.
His dad essentially said they were going elsewhere because Florida had DJ Lagway, and that's who they were going to go with, which I'm not saying is not a smart decision on Austin Simmons' part, but it's just a dumb decision for your dad to come out and publicly say that that's why you're going elsewhere.
Indeed. Adrian, what was your percentage again?
I put it at 80.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit lower than y'all. I'm going to go 49%. I think Ole Miss is going to be good. They're actually one of my surprise teams. Yeah, I got Ole Miss winning 9 football games. I think they're going to be a lot. I think Austin's listen, I don't know if he's soft. I think he's going to be the truth. I really think he's going to break out. He's going to be one of the breakout players in the conference. They're going to score a lot of points. It's Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. I like what they have at receiver. Some of the new guys they brought in. They brought in the kid from Penn State. Caden Lee is back, ready to burst on the scene. They're going to take a step back defensively. I think this could be a really fun, high-scoring game. Yeah, Ole Miss isn't extremely intimidating. Again, I got a taste of it when they took on Georgia, so that's not like the bar. That's obviously a different level. But, guys, we talked about, listen, Ole Miss, you're right. They have a game every year, and a lot of these teams do that are just inconsistent. They win when they shouldn't. They lose when they shouldn't. When's that game for Florida coming? This one might be it. This one, to me, might be it. I don't know. I'm going to go 49%. I picked Ole Miss to win this game, admittedly. So, it's not like an indictment on Florida. I think this year in the league, man, and like you look at last year, I think you got to think outside the box a little bit. And not telling y'all, just in general, I think the middle class of this league is going to beat up on each other. I think it's going to happen. So, I don't even I wonder what the line will be in this game. I think it'd be pretty close to a pick 'em, to be honest with you. I really do. So it's kind of like I was talking about the A&M game earlier. One way or the other wouldn't surprise me, but I'm going to say this is a game Florida drops. I can't really explain why, but I just, like you said, I feel like they have one of those games every year. So I think it's going to be this one.
If I travel to Oxford and we lose, I'm going to be pissed at you.
Side note, this is also, since we're just playing spoiler, this was also a game that I had planned as my Oxford trip. So, Allie, I may see you there.
All right.
I'll see you there. I'm going too.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a fun trip. I mean, listen, I'm hoping it's a pair of like 7-2 teams or something, like both still kind of in the playoff hunt. I mean, that's because I'll tell you this, if it is, it will be a good atmosphere. It won't be
sure.
It won't be Death Valley, it won't be the Swamp, but it will be a fun. They party in there. I mean, the party carries over. So yeah. Anyways.
So you're picking Florida to lose as somewhat of an upset, then?
I think it depends on how they've both done to that point. Because again, I've got Ole Miss going 9-3. So like, I don't know if Ole Miss has 2 or 3 losses at that point. Per Vegas, would they not? I mean, they might be favored. I don't know. Oof. I don't know at that point. I don't know.
That's what I'm going to get at too. At this point in the year, I have absolutely no idea what to expect. I will say if Ole Miss is in the CFP hunt again, I'm very, very worried about this. They will, whether or not Lane Kiffin is a master motivator, doesn't matter. The players will want blood. Austin Simmons has his own reasons for wanting blood, apparently now even more so than I thought with Allie. But this is an Ole Miss team that if they are in the playoff hunt at this point in the year, they are infinitely more dangerous than not. Florida, I think, to Allie's point earlier, has a better roster than they do. I don't think Florida has a better coach. I don't think Florida has a better coach than most teams will play this year, X's and O's wise. But this Florida coach has amassed a better roster than Lane Kiffin has. And then it's the old quote, you win games with Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's. I think that Florida wins this game strictly because of that. And I think this is an ugly game. Like last year's kind of was for especially the first quarter, but it's a slugfest. There's a lot of activity in those trenches. I think Florida has a 71% chance to win, with the caveat that if Ole Miss is on that CFP bubble in mid-November, that number drops precipitously, like below 40%. So I'll say that. And now we come to the final 2 games of the year. Tennessee, the SEC finale in the Swamp. Allie, I know you have personal PTSD with this, so we'll let you go first. What do you think?
I do, but I am putting it as a 65% chance of winning. I feel like this is such a hard one to predict. We don't know if Tennessee is going to be shored up at quarterback or not, which I think makes all the difference in the world here. But I still think Tennessee is a talented team all the way around. I still think Florida's either going to be, dead in the water at this point, or they're gonna be riding the high of potentially being a playoff team. And but this is in the Swamp, and I think Florida wins. So I'm going to say 65% chance the Gators win this one.
Chris?
I'm going to go 75. It's in the Swamp. Florida is so deep in Tennessee's head at this point, it's not even funny. I got Tennessee buddies here living in Nashville that, I mean, they were at the Swamp 2 years ago, and they're like, dude, we can't win there. And I think they're probably going to go back. They're like, we love the road trip, but we can't win there. So it's kind of like Adrian was talking with the Georgia game, like till I see it. I mean, I don't know if there's voodoo in the field or like what the deal is, but that Tennessee team 2 years ago, there wasn't a soul picking Florida to win that game outside of like the Gator community. And this Tennessee team ain't even close, in my opinion, to what that one was. I'm not a Joey Aguilar believer. I mean, I think that they're going to be carried by their defense, but unless Joey Aguilar is something I don't expect him to be, this game at quarterback is just not even comparable, in my opinion. So I'm not saying it'll be a blowout, but I feel pretty confident in Florida. Play the game in September, play it in November, play it in March. I mean, if it's at the Swamp, I'm feeling pretty good about Florida here.
Yeah, 2001, right? Is that the last time that Tennessee won in the Swamp?
That was a long time ago.
2003.
2003, they also won?
Again, yeah.
Okay. Listen, man, Tennessee's a mess, dude. They are a mess right now. We know about Nico. Joey Aguilar cannot win down the QB1 slot right now. He's having trouble beating out the true freshman GMAC that they call him down there, as well as the other guy who's a redshirt freshman, Merklinger. He had a very bad scrimmage last Saturday, real poor scrimmage. So he can't win down the QB1 spot yet. Boo Carter, who is probably one of their top 2 players on defense, he decided to not show up for off-season workouts. He challenged the leadership council. One of the guys on there punched him, knocked him out because of that. Then now his mom's on Twitter going crazy, talking about Heupel and talking about Tennessee. I think Heupel's got a culture problem there, guys. Throw in the fact that all of their wide receivers are injured. The one guy who they plan on being their main wideout, Braswell, he got arrested last week for driving with a suspended license. They're blurring out quarterbacks on Twitter that throw interceptions so that the fans don't get on them. And now their fans are going crazy because Nike booted them, and they had to sign with Adidas. So now their fans are going crazy about that. They're a mess, man. By November 22nd, they'll probably have about 4 losses, and that's only because their schedule is softer than Charmin. That's the only reason why. They really played 3 games: Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. But they're going to lose to Oklahoma also, and they'll probably – and you have them losing to Mississippi State. That would be beautiful down in Rocky Top.
Which, to your point, Adrian, their schedule's so soft. I still have them somehow at 8-4. The schedule is it's that workable. It's really that workable.
Honestly, with Florida's schedule, they don't make a bowl. I would pick them not making a bowl with Florida's schedule. So because of that, I got it at a 90 percentile that they come into the swamp and Gators just put it on them like Tennessee was born to get put on, man. Just born for that.
Well, maybe they were, because
I'm a 92 to 95 Gator, bro. I've seen them put it on them good. Trust me.
maybe they were born to have it put on them by the Gators, because most of their players weren't even alive the last time they won in the swamp. So, with that said, I do respect Josh Heupel's offensive system. The X's and O's brain that he has does give me a little pause, but I don't think that overcompensates for, again, as I've said for the last couple of games now, the roster. Florida is just better. They're better up front. They have the better QB. They have the better defense. I think Florida has the better running backs even than Tennessee does, which is probably the strength of their offense now, but by default. So it's not a guarantee. I know that at some point Florida is going to lose a game to Tennessee in the swamp. That streak will come to an end eventually. I don't think this is the year. I really don't. So I will say Florida has an 81% chance to win. And now we come to the finale with FSU. And who would have ever thought the percentages that are about to come out of our mouths after the team that we saw 2 years ago, last time they came to the swamp. Then last year happened, and, well, I'll just let you guys get to it. What do we think? I didn't hear that.
Alan,
sorry.
I think you're muted.
Oh, am I?
Okay.
Now you're not.
Am I
There you
muted?
go.
Oh, weird. Okay. 95% chance.
All right.
95,
Adrian?
I like it. Listen, man, Florida State's Norvell, what a disappointment, right? I mean, that guy, I don't think he has any idea what he wants to do.
Keep
on how to
him
run a program.
forever.
Yeah, I don't think he has any clue how he wants to run a program. Does he want to go portal with Power 4 guys that were let go? Does he want to go portal with non-Power 4 guys that were starters? Does he want to try and recruit a little bit this year? He's got no clue. He's got a quarterback that barely cracks 5 feet tall. He's got defensive backs fighting coaches, getting kicked off the team. They're a mess also, man. Those last 2 games are gimmies. I'm having trouble thinking either if those last 2 games are easier than the first 2. I think the first 2 games might be tougher than these last 2. I got it at 95. I'm with Allie. 95%. Florida State comes into the swamp, just gets beat down.
All right. I will say it's tough. I mean, I don't think very highly of Thomas Castellanos. He got benched at Boston College for a reason. It is a rivalry. Weird stuff does happen, but I mean, again, I'll just copy and paste the line from the last few. Florida's just better. They're just so much better everywhere you look. Up front, at the skill positions, on defense, at quarterback. And I think you're right, Adrian, that I don't think Norvell knows what he wants to do from a program standpoint. We know he doesn't recruit his own quarterbacks. We know he gets them on the resale market, but everywhere else, I just don't think he knows what he wants to do. So I'll say 89% chance for Florida. I think Chris's internet dropped, but 89% chance for Florida. There he is. Chris, just
there we go. I have no idea what it was. The Mike Norvell hackers. I apologize. You said 89%. I'm going to go. I'll go 87% just because it's a rivalry game. And I guess you never know. I do think Florida State will be better than 2-10. I don't know how much better, but they will be better. But yeah, I Florida in the swamp in this one. I think this is a dub for them. So I'll go 87%. Like I said, mainly just you never know in rivalry games, but yeah, Florida's the better team, better program, better across the board.
All right. Quick caveat, real fast. The only thing that can make that a game, besides being the rivalry, and it's stuff that we don't know, right? If it's kind of quasi falling off the rails, right? And maybe some guys, but we don't think that these guys will quit on Billy. They didn't last year, like what you said, Chris. But if it kind of falls off the rails and you get more losses than what you anticipated, and the Gators come into that game with already 5 or 6 losses, then it could be a game, But other than that, man, I just can't see it.
All right, so I've tallied up. Actually, not I. Dustin has tallied up all your percentages, all our percentages. He's been silently working behind the scenes here for the past 3 hours that we've been talking Gator football, which is crazy.
Marathon.
But, time flies when you're having fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed. Certainly, I hope Allie, Chris, and Adrian, hope you enjoyed talking about it as much as I did. I see 8.39% for me. 8.39 wins out of 12. We're tallying them up and we're getting our percent, or we're getting our win expectancy. So I'm at 8.39. Chris is at 8.14. So I'm not the lowest. Look at that. Negative Neil is not the most negative on the Gators this year. Allie is exactly 8.49. And Adrian is the most optimistic at 8.84. So what does that mean? It means we all think Florida's going to win between 8 and 9 games. I mean, a little deviation. Obviously, Adrian outright picked Florida to lose 3 games. Allie picked Florida to lose to LSU and Texas. And I only picked Florida to lose to LSU and Miami. I think they could lose to Texas, but I just think that's going to be a last stand game. So we all are in the same ballpark. We all have Florida between 8 and 4, which is what Chris has, and 10 and 2. Does that sound like the reasonable place to end this show? That's where we think Florida is this year?
Yeah. And if any amount of that happens anywhere between 8 and 4 and 10 and 2, I think Napier's back for another year.
Yeah, slam dunk.
Yeah.
Slam dunk. And 9 and 3, if Florida with this schedule at 9 and 3 doesn't make the college football playoff, it'll be a snub. It'll be very unfortunate, and it'll be something that every SEC AD is going to have a hard look at and be like, I'm going to be in full control of my non-conference schedule, and I'm going to start looking at Division II,
and it's going to be a factor. Yeah, it's going to be a factor on going from 8 or 9 SEC games too. If a 9 and 3 team with this schedule gets snubbed, because there's no incentive to go to 9 conference games.
None.
Yeah, I think 8 and 4 is about right. Yeah.
Yeah, because wouldn't Florida have a much better chance of beating Texas if they have Townsend State week 3 instead of Miami? Yeah, I think so.
Or they could have a schedule where they're 1 out of conference game, and so win or lose, it wouldn't matter because they could play in the ACC and then win a whole bunch more conference games.
Correct. So it's good.
I really don't see Florida not making it at 9 and 3. I think it's possible if you have a logjam of 9 and 3, and then you want to give it to a logo like in Alabama, which doesn't make any sense. That's not the right way to do it. But I think that would be how it is done. I'm saying I don't have faith in the committee to make the right decision. But I really think 9-3 does it this year. I really do. I think Florida would be at the top of the 9-3 pool of teams if there is that logjam. And I think that Florida is just going to do enough with that schedule to impress the committee, because 9 wins means they're going to have a look at me, you can't ignore this type of win, whether that's Georgia or at LSU, or even at Miami would be impressive, or Texas, or you lose to Texas, Georgia, and at LSU, but you win every other game, which means you win at Ole Miss, you win at Kentucky, which isn't quite that hard, but you win at Texas A&M, you take care of road games, and then you beat FSU and Tennessee and win all the games you should, so you don't have a bad loss on your resume.
But if you beat Miami and then Miami runs the table and you're talking about an 11-1 Miami team that gets in, and then you're talking about a bubble team 9-3 Florida that beat them to get there,
that would be
heads would explode.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't wait for the debate between the 9-3 Florida and the 10-2 Miami for the at-large spot.
With Florida having beat Miami,
having beaten them,
either or, really. Either or.
Nah, if Miami beat us head-to-head, that's kind of hard to argue.
Yeah, but if that was their one game they had to get up for the entire season.
Depending on how the game went, I could still be like, Florida's resume is more impressive.
Imagine that. Imagine you lose a road game in Miami by 2 points, less than 5 points. You have victories maybe over Texas or maybe over Georgia. And Miami has that ACC, that vaunted ACC schedule, and they get into the playoffs over you because of one less loss.
Brutal.
Damn. I put it on Scott Strickland. I'll put this up directly on Scott Strickland. I told him 4 years ago he should have gotten rid of Miami off the schedule when they went to this Texas-Oklahoma schedule.
Yeah, Strickland can be blamed for a lot of things, but I wouldn't blame him for this one, because at the time it was scheduled, it did seem like a good idea. We did have reason to believe that schedule strength was going to be a huge thing for the selection committee. It just hasn't turned out to be that way. And I do think, and I said this to Adrian off air too, I do think that there will be a course correction with the CFP committee choosing a little bit.
Thank you, Indiana.
Yeah, right. Y'all, it's been a lot of fun talking ball for a good 3 hours. Chris, Adrian, and Allie, so thankful for your time. Before we sign off and call it a night, it's almost morning now at this point on the East Coast. But before we do that, tell us where y'all can be found across the internet. Where can people listen or watch more of you guys?
Allie, go ahead.
Okay, you can watch me at Peek Inside Gators Football on YouTube. You can find me on X. I am back at Allie_Peek, P-E-E-K, so we can argue college football all season long.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered. You can check us out. X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, where we get your content, YouTube, podcast, our website, secunfiltered.com. We're everywhere at SEC Unfiltered. And then, of course, I'm on all social media channels at CPhilly19, and you can also catch us on the road this football season. We'll be on the road 15 straight weeks. Going to be hitting Gainesville, going to be hitting Jacksonville, and potentially maybe Oxford to see the Gators. So we'll be on the road, and come check us out.
Adrian, people.
At Gator Diamond Pod. Just go there on X. Me and my partner, Chris, and we're all part of the In All Kinds of Weather Network now, so we'll be here also, and our pod will be also on the In All Kinds of Weather Network, so that's where you'll catch us, man. Go follow us.
Looking forward to having your content be under our brand. I'm very, very, very grateful that you and Chris saw the need, or saw the value in joining forces here. Definitely a big move that was made, and very, very excited to see what's coming from you and Chris Ulrich on the Gator Diamond Pod, coming to the All Kinds of Weather Forecast channels coming soon. But y'all know who I am, Neil Schulman. You can follow me at All Kinds Weather on Twitter and Instagram, or X if you want to call it X. It's still Twitter to me. It's just baked into my brain. It's been so long. But Facebook, In All Kinds of Weather. You can catch the In All Kinds of Weather forecast wherever you get your podcasts. Y'all, we talked for about as long as it takes to watch a Gator football game, which is just a testament to how deep the passion runs in Gator Nation. So for all of y'all who watched and imbibed us for 3 hours, Neil Schulman, Ali Peak, Adrian Perez, and Chris Phillips, we're saying thank you to staying with us for this entire marathon State of the Program address episode. And just to recap, to bring the whole thing full circle, to me, the State of the Program is unwritten. Adrian, the State of the Program was crossroads. Chris, the State of the Program was optimistic-ish. And Ali, I believe yours was hopeful?
Was.
All right. It feels like years ago, but it was only 3 hours ago that we went through all that. But we all think kind of the same thing. Gators are at a crossroads, big year. Can they produce on the field? We're going to find out. Until next time, y'all, Neil Schulman of In All Kinds of Weather signing off. You now know where to find these amazing people and where they do their work. So until next time, y'all take care, and we'll see you in the swamp.